Number 10. X-Man. It's not a deadly superhero list without at least one Gray or Summers offspring making the cut, and X-Man is both, genetically speaking at least. X-Man is Nate Gray, who hails from the Age of Apocalypse reality of Earth 295. He is known as X-Man and is also sometimes referred to as Mutant Jesus, so I think you can imagine what we're working with here. Nate Gray was created by the Mr. Sinister of his reality using the genes of both Jean Grey and Scott Summers. He represents the greatest potential in terms of power for their offspring. But despite being created by Sinister using Grey and Summer genes, he was actually raised by AOA's Forge. Nate Gray is a reality warper, and a mighty one at that. Reality warpers, especially stable ones like Nate, would be extremely dangerous to have in the MCU because they would be limitless in terms of what they could do. Especially Nate Gray, he is very much limitless. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd and you love when we talk about comics, be sure to let us know you love us by subscribing, and that way you don't miss out on any of our awesome content. Yay! It's a win-win. Number 9. Amass. Amass is one of my favorite new mutants that I've met in the last little while. They appear in the current Marauders run that started this year in 2022 and is written by Steve Orlando. Amass was created by Orlando and Eleonora Carlini. This mutant is wild. We don't know that much about them yet, but what we do know is that they can basically combine mutant powers and mutants together, hence their name of Amass, because they amass things. They hail from a hidden ancient civilization of mutants known as the Threshold that existed eons ago, and which we are only now learning about in the comics, and this was actually said to be like the first ever mutants to have existed. As of Marauders issue number 9, we do not know this mutant's limitations yet when it comes to their powers, and so I could definitely see them being a character who could easily break the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if they are as powerful as I suspect they are, and I suspect they're probably pretty powerful. Number 8. Ex Nihilo. If we get Ex Nihilo in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it will probably mean the coming of the Builders, which would be a whole world-destroying event. Worlds-destroying actually, since they basically obliterated multiple planets in order to reset the universe and start again because of what they had learned about the coming incursions. Ex Nihilo was known as one of the Gardeners. He was created by the Builders, as were all the Gardeners. Their goal was to perfect species on planets and create life, which sounds great until you realize the level of power needed to do such a thing. Ex Nihilo could both create matter and manipulate time, which is pretty crazy. Number 7. Ulysses. Ulysses is an inhuman superhero who created a lot of commotion as a result of his powers and, well, just existing. Ulysses was actually the central cause of Civil War II. His powers allowed him to get visions of possible futures, with it believed the more clear his visions became, the more likely these futures were to happen. As a result, the heroes became divided into two camps when it came to how to best utilize Ulysses and his immense power. One camp was headed by Carol Danvers' Captain Marvel, who hoped to utilize Ulysses' powers and visions to prevent tragic and devastating events before they happened, thereby saving countless lives, but of course at the cost of punishing people before they'd even really done anything wrong. Whereas Tony Stark's Iron Man headed the second camp of heroes, who weren't as willing to put all their faith in Ulysses' visions, especially at the cost of compromising the freedom of those who had possibly not even done anything wrong yet. If you'd like to avoid Civil War II from happening, a good way to do so would be by us never getting Ulysses in the MCU, which could create a lot of craziness. Number 6. Powerhouse. Powerhouse is the codename for Franklin Richards, the son of Susan Storm Richards aka the Invisible Woman, and Reed Richards aka Mr. Fantastic, both of the superhero team the Fantastic Four. When Franklin was just an infant, he caused a whole bunch of trouble due to being so powerful. In fact, he caused so much trouble that at one point Reed had to intervene by shutting down young Franklin's mind. At this point, Franklin was so powerful and his powers so out of control that he could have easily and accidentally destroyed the Earth. And this is when Franklin was just basically a baby still. Franklin might not have his powers currently in the comics, but if we were to see Powerhouse at peak strength and power level, he would definitely be far too dangerous a character for the MCU. Number 5. Hyperion. Hyperion would be a challenging one I think to have in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, due to his similarity to one of the Distinguished Competition's main heroes, Superman. Hyperion is in essence like Marvel's response to a character like Superman, and he also recently appeared in the comics and was revealed to be problematic in his approach to heroics. That is to say, through getting to know this version of him and this version of his team, the Squadron Supreme of America, that recently appeared in the comics during the recent Heroes Reborn 2021 event, we learned that these heroes were a lot more shady than our standard Earth 616 heroes that we're used to seeing on teams like the Avengers. That being said, this was an alternate version of Milton, but still I think a lot of problems would exist with trying trying to incorporate this character into the MCU. Number 4, One Above All. The One Above All isn't ranking lower because I consider them to be less powerful than those ranked above them on this list. I just feel like they might not be as great of a threat to the MCU if they were to appear. But still, they probably never should, because they could kill the whole art of storytelling by becoming our Deus Ex Machina plot device. One Above All is basically the god of the Marvel Universe. And while it might be cool to see them appear as an allusion to the founders of Marvel Comics who made it what it is today, they definitely could easily derail plots or be used as a plot device to save the day, but at the expense of cheapening the stakes of a story. That being said, they did appear in Immortal Hulk, and I feel like that story actually utilized this character really well. So they could appear in a way that wouldn't cause harm to the universe or plots, but it would still be a hard line to walk, I think. Number 3, Sentry. The Sentry is a hero that might not only be too dangerous for the MCU, but also might be considered a little too dark as well when it comes to his origins. His danger levels though come from the fact that the Sentry not only has the power of like a ton of suns within him, but also the fact that within the Sentry lives the Void, the hero's alter ego who we initially thought was created by a split in his personality. But we would later learn in a retcon was an idea implanted in Sentry's mind thanks to the manipulations of villain Mastermind. While Sentry might be the strongest hero this Earth has ever seen, the Void is definitely one of the most devastating villains as well, and they're usually a package deal. Not always, but usually. It's kind of what makes the Sentry interesting, so I think you gotta at least have the Void there to begin with. Number 2, Hope Summers. Hope has to be one of the most destructive superheroes that we could see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. MCU mutants are coming. Eventually. Kamala Khan is already implied to be one of them as per the origin story her creators always wanted for her in the comics, but got denied at the time of her creation due to the push of the Inhumans in comics, as you know, the rights to the X-Men and the mutants were all wonky due to Fox's involvement. But now the mutants are back with Marvel thanks to their partnership with Disney, who acquired Fox, and all is well. But not if we get mutants who then get erased from existence by House of M. Hope was originally known as the Mutant Messiah. She was the first mutant baby to have been born since House of M, and her powers put her on another level when it comes to heroics. She can take on the power of any other mutant in her vicinity, and get those powers at peak level and skill set. Add in the fact that Hope's birth also caused an all-out war between the mutants during Messiah Complex, and yeah, having Hope in the MCU would both be challenging and be probably pretty dangerous. Number 1, Squirrel Girl. Despite no longer being fully considered unbeatable thanks to a fight in the Fantastic Four where it's implied that Squirrel Girl was beaten off panel, Squirrel Girl still has beaten a lot of big names when it comes to villains in Marvel Comics, and has also helped to reform some major ones as well. In fact, this is kind of Dorian's like whole secret to success when it comes to beating her foes. She usually does so by befriending them and encouraging them to do and be better, which usually, you know, just defeats them by making them good people. She's inspirational, and hey, it's contagious. And while she has lost once, I think her track record of beating almost all villains she runs into makes her simply too dangerous for the MCU. I mean, almost no one would be able to stand against her. Doesn't matter who shows up, Thanos, Kang, she'd be like, look, why don't we just have a conversation, and then it would all be resolved. Like Black Panther in What If, when he was Star-Lord and he was like, I just had a conversation with Thanos and then we fixed it.
Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Hawkeye. As funny as it might sound to put Hawkeye first on a list about dangerous Avengers members, he's not to be messed with. And in the MCU, Hawkeye's had it pretty rough. He had his mind controlled in the first Avengers, he took out eyeballs for Loki, yuck. And then he comes out of retirement for like 2 hours, comes Civil War, and then he gets arrested and sent to the Raft. And then his family disappears. So we catch up with Clint 5 years after Thanos snapped his dirty fingers, and we find him in Tokyo, and he's not the same guy that we once knew at all. He's taken out criminals, this time he's doing it the hard way, and he's suited up as a different character altogether. He's back this time as Ronin. And this is a dark time. He takes out so many people, and he takes them out violently as well. He uses his skills to do it in such a brutal assassin way. I mean, I know you're upset because your entire family disappeared while you were eating hot dogs with mayo. That's fair, but so was the rest of the world, okay? They were affected too. Stick to the arrow, leave the hood and the sword down. Stay Hawkeye, stay nice. And before we continue on with this list of dangerous Avenger members, guys, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, that would mean a lot. It helps this channel out so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Now let's get right back into this list. Number 9, Bucky Barnes. Near the end of World War II, Bucky and Cap were trying to disarm a bomb on a plane while taking down Baron Zemo. Now the bomb went off, hurling Steve and Bucky into the freezing waters, and well, as for Cap, you know his story. He remained frozen, came back out of the ice years later, still mentally and physical at his peak, but this wasn't the case for Bucky. His body fell into the freezing waters, and at the time, a Soviet spy submarine was in the area crossing between the English Channel, so they scooped him up, made him a fancy new metal arm, brainwashed him, and turned him into a brutal assassin with the help of Hydra's own super soldier serum. He joined the Avengers officially in the New Avengers issue 48. Now, Bucky is of course considered an Avenger now in the MCU, but during the Civil War storyline, we saw just how brutal he could be as an assassin. He took out all of the Avengers once he broke out with Zemo's help. Number 8, Sentry. He made his first appearance in Sentry issue 1. Meet Robert Reynolds. He was a struggling addict who made his way into a laboratory and discovered something called the Golden Sentry Serum. And then he got the surprise of a lifetime when he was given the power of 1 million exploding suns. Now that plus a homemade costume equals superhero. Sounds pretty good. But he's a quite dangerous superhero. I mean, of course, the whole million sun thing. Robert fought alongside the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and then of course, the New Avengers. Things changed for Robert when Norman Osborn decided to put together a team of his own. This was the Dark Avengers, where he made the switch. Sentry's a pretty powerful being as well. I mean, he was once a horseman of death, where he even considered himself as the heir to Apocalypse, so he's up there. Number 7, Wolverine. James Howlett, a Canadian mutant and popular member of the X-Men who we all should know by now. He describes himself as being the best at what he does, but what he does isn't very nice. He has an accelerated healing factor, sharp senses, sharp claws, and of course the adamantium coating on his bones thanks to the Weapon X program. So the claws are what make Logan unique. He is a fierce, brutal warrior with them, and he has the rage of a beast and the soul of a samurai. Put that all together and you have quite a fierce Avenger. He joined the Avengers in New Avengers issue 6. He obtains the Muramasa blade, and so begins his quest for revenge. He's pretty dangerous too, the whole healing factor, the rage, his memories coming and going. I'm really hoping that with Deadpool 3 in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, now that Marvel has him back, I really hope we can see the Avengers recruit these mutants on the big screen as well. It'd be fun to see them together. After all, Deadpool 3 was supposed to be a road trip with them too as well, so we gotta see somewhat of a version of that. Number 6, Mockingbird. Barbara Morse made her comic book debut in Astonishing Tales issue 12. She studied at Georgia Institute of Technology, specializing in biology, and she worked with Dr. Wilma Calvin on Project Gladiator. Now the project was set to recreate the super soldier serum that created Captain America. Everybody was trying this. It worked and failed multiple times. But during this time, S.H.I.E.L.D. trained Bobby to be a spy. They also gave her the cool nickname of Agent 19. I mean, yeah, she was so good at gymnastics and flips, it would be stupid not to make her a superhero at this point. So she became Mockingbird in the 80s with Marvel Team Up issue 95. In 2011, she became a super soldier in New Avengers 13, so she finally has powers. When she was on the verge of dying, she was injected with this other version of the serum, and it saved her, thankfully. But it of course also gave her new super soldier abilities. She's skilled in hand-to-hand combat, like Kung Fu and Taekwondo, and she's known to be pretty dangerous when fighting in close quarters. Course, being familiar in weaponry as well. She was one of the founding members of the West Coast Avengers, but she also was part of the New Avengers and the Secret Avengers as well. So she's been around for quite a bit. Fans actually got their hope up that Barbara would appear in the MCU. They actually thought Erin Kellyman was Mockingbird, but alas, she was revealed to be Flag Smasher, or leader of the Flag Smashers in the MCU. Number 5, She-Hulk. Jennifer Walters made her comic book debut in Savage She-Hulk issue 1. She's a brilliant lawyer who just happened to be the cousin of Bruce Banner. So when she was shot by Nicholas Trask, yeah, she was shot while she was defending a criminal who had been double-crossed by Trask. And she was also spreading rumors that she had enough evidence to lock away Trask, so he lashed out and shot her. So now, in order to save her life, a blood transfusion was required from none other than her family, the Hulk himself. She joined the Avengers in issue 221. Now, what makes Jen Walters stand out as a Hulk is that she's able to control her abilities, unlike Bruce. Tatiana Mason Lee is actually set to play the powerful Avenger in Disney's upcoming She-Hulk, set to release in 2022, and I can't wait to see how powerful she is on the big screen as well. Number 4, US Agent. John Walker, perhaps one of the most dangerous members to ever join the Avengers ranks. We're seeing this unfold currently in the MCU in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So this war hero in the show was nominated to become the replacement of Steve Rogers, and this happened in the comics as well. This happened when Steve Rogers had to abandon his identity due to the Red Skull's manipulation of the Commission on Superhuman Activities. So somebody had to suit up, so the government needed this new figure, and in issue 333 of Captain America, titled The Replacement, we saw just who that was. He took on the role of Captain America briefly, but after he left, he he returned again, but this time in his own version of a blacked out Captain America suit, and the shield is also less spangly. He comes back as US agent and he's put to the test. He's forced to battle an Ironmonger and he wants to take it down alone because, you know, he's cool. The shield seems to work out for him pretty well, and in the comics, it was actually Taskmaster who trained him how to properly use that shield, who we have yet to see in the MCU because Black Widow is still delayed. Now yes, eventually he did join the Avengers. In West Coast Avengers issue 45, the government wanted an official in there to make sure all was running smoothly, so they sent in John Walker. I feel like the finale for Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to be the introduction of the Thunderbolts, and I really hope US Agent joins a version of the Dark Avengers, because he's an amazing actor. I'm not quite done with him yet. Number 3, Quicksilver. The twin brother of Wanda Maximoff. I figured it was a great time to mention this speedy Avenger. Pietro Maximoff is the twin brother of Wanda, and in Avengers West Coast issue 57, he joined the team. Now, Pietro had been trouble for the team for a while now. I mean, he convinced Wanda to do what she did in the House of M storyline. He's framed the Avengers for treason at one point, and he was fully okay with exposing his daughter Luna to Terrigen. He's kind of the worst. That's actually how Luna got her abilities, but still, bad parenting 101. In West Coast Avengers issue 33, Magneto's bloodline got the best of him, and he got fellow Avengers captured by the communist gang. Even in the MCU, Quicksilver was first introduced as a villain. He and Wanda were actually both Team Hydra in the start. Now his super speed is not to be toyed with. He's quite powerful. In Marvel Zombies, Quicksilver gets tricked by Mystique, he gets bit, and then with his incredible speed powers, he's able to turn everybody into zombies all around the world within minutes. The situation went from bad to unstoppable thanks to Quicksilver. Number 2, Scarlet Witch. She's a daughter of Magneto and the twin brother of Quicksilver, who I just mentioned, so now's a pretty good time to mention her as well. She was on her father's Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but most of us would consider Wanda one of the strongest Avengers. She's one of the biggest Marvel characters ever, and during those events of M-Day, she spoke 3 words: no more mutants. And just like that, a mass amount of mutants were depowered, or worse. Now that large number was 986,000, so only leaving a couple hundred left. In the MCU as well, we just watched Wanda go through quite the trauma. In WandaVision, we saw this over the course of 9 weeks, where she had a mental breakdown kind of similar to M-Day, and she trapped Westview in her hex. Now, of course, by the end of the show, she frees everybody and things look pretty back to normal-ish, but with that after-credit scene of her studying the Darkhold, and with the given knowledge that Wanda is in the next Doctor Strange movie, I feel like we've only scratched the surface of the Scarlet Witch's true abilities. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Vision. Of course, Wanda's hubby, android hubby. The Vision is an advanced android to say the least. I mean, he came back from the dead in WandaVision and now he's matching his West Coast Avengers look more than ever, that all-white android look. He was first introduced in Avengers issue 57, created by Ultron using parts of the original Human Torch and the mind of Wonder Man. A little different than the MCU. He then turned on his original creator and joined the Avengers. In the MCU, he's created for Ultron's new body, but with the addition of the Mind Stone and a little bit of Jarvis, we now have this android Avenger. But during the Secret Empire storyline, Vision was part of Hydra's Avengers when they were taking over the world. He used an AI virus to take him over, he being Arnim Zola. A robot gone rogue is quite compelling, especially when he's as strong as the Vision. In the first issue, he's put to the test when the other Avengers are fighting him. He's easily able to take them all on. As long as he's on the good side, we should be okay. Otherwise, it's just gonna be a hot mess. Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Abracadabra. AKA Citizen Abra, he began his magical days as a Flash villain, first appearing in comics in The Flash issue 128. He's from the future, of course, like most of these guys are, but it's a future where, sadly, magic shows aren't a thing anymore. Yeah, sorry David Blaine, gotta get a new job. He's from the 64th century and technology has become so advanced that pulling a rabbit out of a hat just simply won't cut it anymore. I heard about the time machine powered by M-Metal, he just had to get his glittery magician hands on it. It was only capable of 1 trip, so Abra snuck into the laboratory and shot back in time to the 20th century where magicians were still celebrities, like Chris Angel or David Blaine or David Copperfield or, you know, the other ones. He would use technology from his timeline well beyond what we're capable of and then blow our minds in these magic shows. The shows were going well at first until people got bored, then they were actually more interested in this new statue being built in town, so he figured the next logical way of getting attention was to start stealing things, starting with this fancy new statue. He kept stealing, and he kept stealing after that, and he kept using his future tech to evade capture, so when it comes to magicians, Abracadabra is very committed to the craft, in the future or the past. Number 9. Gorr, the God Butcher. The God Butcher will be played by Christian Bale in the upcoming Thor Love and Thunder sequel, and yes, he is a time-traveling menace as well. He made his first appearance in Thor God of Thunder issue 2. He was born on a planet with no name, which is always a great sign. Gorr lost his parents when he was very young, and he was told to pray to these gods, because they would always make things better, these glorious gods. And then after getting a wife and son, death kept looming over, and he lost both of them as well. Really tragic stuff. So now he's a little bit more than upset at these gods. He wants them to answer or to pay, one of the two. With the all-black Necrosword powers, he heads out for revenge on these gods, but in the past. He would use the Pool of Forever to travel back in time and make these attacks happen. He would use the Pool of Forever to go back in time and then attack all these gods when they were babies, right? So it took different versions of Thor from different timelines just to put a stop to Gorr the God Butcher. So with this new Thor movie coming out, including Natalie Portman, Mjolnir, Lady Sif, I feel like it's gonna be a cosmic headache and do some time stuff in there as well. But in Taika, we trust. It's kind of like when Rhodey suggested getting rid of Thanos when he was younger by, you know, Gorr the God Butcher is basically that mentality, but 10 times worse. And with powers. Number 8, Timothy Drake. The Red Robin, aka Tim Drake, first entered comics in Batman 436. He was a young boy who saw the Flying Graysons show live in person. He even received kind words from Dick Grayson, and Dick dedicated that act to Tim that night. How lovely. Now, of course, this was moments before Dick's parents, John and Mary, tragically died during this act. A night Tim would never forget, especially when he witnessed the Caped Crusader himself, Batman, consoling Dick Grayson afterwards. So years later, when Tim was 9, it was Batman and Robin taking down the Penguin, and Robin did this quadruple somersault, the only flip that could be performed by a Grayson, and then he connected the dots. He's like, oh, so you're him and you're him. Got it. Tim followed them around for a while, and then after Jason's death, Tim suited up himself as the third Robin. But in the Titans Tomorrow storyline, we see the Teen Titans travel to the 31st century to assist the Legion of Superheroes, and when they return, they accidentally end up 10 years in their future. So they meet older, darker future versions of themselves, including Timothy Drake, now going by Savior. This version of Tim is ruthless. He even carries around with him Joe Chill's gun to help get the job done. So when the team gets back to their real timeline, they swear to never become their dark counterparts, and they split up. But like I said earlier, this split up is actually what ends up causing the dark versions of themselves to happen in the first place. Time! You can't mess with time. That's it. The Titans Tomorrow storyline is definitely one you need to check out. We love dark, evil versions of our heroes. We can't get enough of them. Number 7, Ultron. The Avengers Age of Ultron storyline is a lot better than the MCU's version of that. The comic Age of Ultron has better time travel stuff than the movie Endgame does, honestly. I mean, Wolverine goes back in time, he tries to kill Hank Pym so that Ultron's never created, but while he's there, he has to talk to other Avengers who are also back in time on a different mission. It's wild, it's a great time. It starts off with New York City in ruins. Spider-Man is zipping around the city, all these heroes are missing or they're dead, and the only way for the city to survive this apocalypse is by offering superheroes to Ultron, who just rules everything. So She-Hulk and Luke Cage are amongst these survivors, and they have the plans basically to just go in willingly, and then once they're inside, they're gonna break everything apart because they're super strong. But then when they get there, it's not even Ultron that's running the show, it's actually Vision. The Vision is being used as a conduit from future Ultron, so he's safe, you can't just go and punch him and then everything's fine. He's in the future, he's safe, he knows what's gonna happen. We're kind of screwed. We can't punch our way out of this. We have Ultron already on top. Ultron is actually barely in this story, funny enough, but the stakes start off raised, so you feel anxious the entire time reading it. It's a great time travel story. Definitely check it out. Number 6, Reverse Flash. Eobard Thawne made his debut in Flash issue 139, titled The Black Flash. He was the OG Reverse Flash. He was born in 2451 when his parents genetically engineered him, because that's the thing you do in the future, and you can engineer your kids to look and be funny and cute, I guess. Okay, cool. But he lacked the social skills in this time to make his parents truly proud, so they decided, you know what, another son may be the key. A new best friend, great idea, you know, they can pair up and talk and be friends and stuff. Okay, cool. I grew up with siblings, I get it. That second son's name was Robert. He spent so much time trying to keep an eye on Robert and to make his parents proud and to like babysit him, that down the road his application to study the Speed Force at the Flash Museum was rejected. He was too busy, couldn't even study. So he studied it illegally. But he was caught by his brother, who is now an officer in the Science Police. This guy is interesting and a little confusing. So a future version of Eobard traveled through time and prevented his brother from being born, and then he was able to study and was in turn this time around admitted to the Flash Museum. Great. But then when Professor Drake was on the verge of proving the existence of the Speed Force, Eobard has trained his whole life for this, so he wanted to collab, but Drake said no. He wanted to do it solo. So he traveled back in time again and eliminated Professor Drake from the equation. So next time around, there's no Drake, there's no problem. Now Eobard is the professor at the Flash Museum and was nicknamed Professor Zoom. Reverse Flash is responsible for the death of Barry Allen's mother and his wife Iris West. He just rips timelines and the Flash's life to pieces. That's his whole thing. Number 5, Maestro. In Avengers Endgame, we cut to 5 years in the future. Hulk is now smart, he's taking selfies, he's dabbing, he's hanging out with the team, but he's embarrassed by his past smashy version of himself from 2012's Avengers. We love growth, we love seeing a character change, but what if the Hulk had lived even longer on this planet? Well, that's where we get into the Incredible Hulk Future Imperfect storyline. As the title suggests, the future is not so bright here. There are no flying cars, there's actually nothing really there. It's not a paradise at all. When we see the future Earth 9200, we're seeing a Hulk 100 years in the future as well. We find him after a nuclear war put the planet close to extinction. So the Hulk, or rather the Maestro, was older, stronger, and scarier looking, all because he'd been absorbing all this nuclear radiation from the Earth. He became even more unstoppable and, of course, just super jaded, just super evil. He had to face a future version of Rick Jones at one point, and then he ended up losing a battle to said Smart Hulk as well. I wouldn't want to face any version of the Hulk at any time. I don't want to fight Smart Hulk, War Hulk, Horseman Hulk, or even Bruce Banner. I don't want to fight the scientist Bruce Banner. Number 4, Time Trapper. First appearing in Adventure Comics 317, Time Trapper was introduced to readers as a warlord in the far future who prevents the Legion of Superheroes from traveling into their future with this iron curtain of time. The Time Trapper's main goal basically was to steal this weapon that could absorb every energy in the universe, just this Dyson vacuum full of energy called the Concentrator. Now the team caught wind of this Time Trapper when they could no longer jump more than 30 days in the future. They're like, okay, something's up, there's some higher powers preventing us from being badass. He resides comfortably at the end of time, accompanied by his servants, the Glorith of Baldur. Time Trapper can age anybody he wants, either a couple years or straight to the ashes and bones part. In Action Comics 385, Time Trapper created a temporal force barrier in order to seal a time-traveling Superman away from the 20th century. He's that powerful. Number 3, Bishop. Lucas Bishop is a time traveler from a dystopian future, and his goal is to travel back in time to stop this unknown factor amongst the X-Men. Okay, so he comes from this dark future and he goes back in time to change it because something bad happens. There's some bad mutant, okay? But this happens where most of the mutant population is depowered by the Scarlet Witch, and then this one child, Hope Summers, was born, the first mutant born since M-Day. Well, it turns out that this kid is the reason Bishop is going back in time in the first place. This kid would end up taking millions of lives in the 6-Second War. So Bishop thinks the only way to save his future is to travel back in time and take out Hope Summers as a child, but he fails at taking out Hope, but he does take down Cable, creating this new future where Cable is remembered as a hero for protecting the child, and Bishop was actually remembered as the villain. So he was the villain in his own story, and he didn't even know it. Number 2, Chronos. If you do the crime, you're doing the time. But if you have enough time, you can plan said crime out in detail, and then maybe you just won't get caught next time. David Clinton first entered DC Comics with the Atom issue 3. He's mainly a villain for Ray Palmer, aka the Atom. Now he was a criminal his entire life, and finally when he was arrested, he was thrown in the slammer, where he had time to think about everything that he's done, all the reasons why he got caught, why his plans didn't work. But maybe he had a bit too much time. He reflected on his past crimes and what he would have done differently if he had planned it better, and then he used his skills and obsessions with timepieces to work non-stop in the prison workshop, where he learned about clocks, time, the mechanisms within. He learned about everything. So when his sentence was finally up, he was released and then became a time-traveling villain. He used all these time-inspired weapons, like an exploding hourglass, a wristwatch with blades instead of hands, and a device that could slow time down. Going by the new name Chronos, in the DC animated universe, Chronos used these devices to go back in time and steal rare relics from the past. At one point, he actually tried stealing a utility belt from the Justice League's watchtower, but when he was interrupted, he made a break for it through the time vortex, and Green Lantern, Batman, and Wonder Woman followed him back. Not this time, Chronos. Literally, not this time. Maybe the next one. And finally, number 1, Kang. Kang the Conqueror. As Loki gets closer to wrapping up, we're starting to see some higher powers at play here. The Time Lords were just androids, Loki was banished to a realm full of other Lokis. We're not really sure who's calling the shots yet, but signs are pointing to Kang. Jonathan Majors is already set to play the time-traveling villain in the next Ant-Man film, so let's do a quick refresh on him. Kang the Conqueror, aka Nathaniel Richards, made his first appearance in Avengers issue 8 back in 1964. Kang has seen many centuries. He can travel through time, and his futuristic suit of armor is built with weapons that can take on any superhero from any timeline that he chooses. He's super powerful, and it sure helps when he travels with armies. That often does a trick. So he discovered time travel tech from the 31st century developed by Dr. Doom, and being a descendant of Reed Richards with that brain power, he figured out a way to make it work to his advantage. He traveled back in time initially to become Pharaoh Rama-Tut, but once he returned to his 31st century, it was now just a wasteland. So he figured, okay, now I'm gonna go all the way back and just rule Earth to prevent said destruction from happening. I feel like Kang is one episode away. We're so close. I can feel it in my soul.
And at number 10, Zsasz. Victor Zsasz is pretty f***ing scary. Sure, he doesn't have supernatural powers like some of the other villains on our list, but he is batshit insane and oh so dangerous. While the Gotham television series doesn't quite do him the justice that other adaptations like the Arkham video games do, Zsasz is you name him. He's versatile. One of the weirdest and most insane villains to ever be written into Batman's comics, he's genuinely disturbed, a trait that should not be taken lightly. The one reassuring thing about Pig is that while he's kept secure in Arkham, he's less of a threat than others on this list. But the second that he gets the chance to continue his work, well, let's just say you'd want to be far, far away from this inmate. And at number 7, Clayface. When he was first introduced by Bill Finger and Bob Kane back in Detective Comics issue 40 in 1940, Clayface, aka Basil Karlo, was a B-list actor who began a life of crime under the guise of a villain he once played in a horror movie. It wasn't until the 50s that the shape-shifting version of Clayface came to be, as science fiction villains were on the rise during the start of the Silver Age. Karlo wouldn't return until after Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now Clayface has the ability of using his clay-like anatomy to transform himself, and also concoct items like weapons out of his body. Clayface is an example of a villain at Arkham who requires a special cell to contain him in order to ensure the safety of everyone in the facility, and to ensure that he won't be able to break out by any easy means. And at number 6, the Penguin. Compared to others on our list, the Penguin is by no means a villain who is physically intimidating. Instead, it's this criminal mastermind's intellect and connections that makes him threatening in Arkham. Considering Oswald Cobblepot is one of the foremost powerful villains in Gotham City, whenever he's locked up in Arkham, he's well protected. You do not want to get on his bad side, or surely you'll suffer major consequences. And it won't be him doing the dirty work, that's for sure. Penguin has proved his ingenuity and cruelty on many an occasion, and even when he's locked up, he's still got major influence over what happens outside of Arkham's walls, and of course, within them. And at number 5, Killer Croc. Killer Croc is an obvious inclusion on this list. Look at him. Killer Croc is another villain who requires his own specially made holding cell, which is actually often depicted as the sewers of Arkham Asylum. This is because of his deadly strength and sheer size. In addition to those traits, he also has enhanced endurance and speed, with skin that is nearly impenetrable, even from high caliber weapons fired from a distance. So needless to say, he's not a villain whose cell you'd want to accidentally wander into. And at number 4, Great White Shark. Great White Shark, aka Warren White, is the perfect example of the kind of effect that Arkham can have on an individual. While his origin story might not be as popular as someone like Harley Quinn's, both of which are tied integrally to Arkham Asylum, Great White Shark's is perhaps more ruthless, since his transformation was a means of survival rather than the product of manipulation. Now prior to his time in Arkham, Warren White, who first appeared in Arkham Asylum Living Hell issue 1 in 2003, was a crooked financier who was nicknamed Great White Shark for his ruthlessness when embezzling millions from his company's pension fund. When he was caught, he pled insanity, which led to him being
thing, and you better be ready for quite a rush. I mean, Surtur once used this artifact in an attempt to end Thor's life. Now this artifact is known for its power, so Thor took that back right quick and guarded it. Nobody should be touching this thing or opening it, in whatever case. But of course, there's more than one set of eyes on this thing. Next, it was taken by the dark elf Yargfelm, but before the dude even had the chance to use it, Malekith took it and attacked Asgard with it. It took all of Heimdall's strength to break through the ice when Loki used the casket on him and Thor won. Wow, that sounds pretty cold and painful. I already live in Canada, so I want no part of that. And before we continue on with this list, guys, if you want to go ahead and give us a thumbs up, that would be great. Those likes really do a wonder for our channel. Thank you so much for your support. Now let's get right back into this list of magical Marvel weapons. Number 9, the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak. This bright red gem made its debut in X-Men issue 12 back in 1965. It's actually the key behind Cain Marko becoming the Juggernaut, who also made his first appearance in that same issue. It shows Cain and Charles Xavier when they were serving together in the same unit, but when Cain went under fire, he ran off to take cover in a nearby cave. The cave was in fact the Lost Temple of Cyttorak, So Cain grabbed this glowing ruby from the lap of an idol, read the inscription, and possessed the power of one of the 8 magical beings that made a totem containing a mere fraction of their power ages ago. Now whoever came into contact would, well, I mean, look at Cain Marko. They would become a human juggernaut. So now he's just unstoppable. He's a beast. There also exists a world inside this gem of Cyttorak, and it's called the Crimson Cosmos. It's another dimension where time doesn't move, and speaking of gems, our number 1 pick may just hit close to home, but we'll get to that later. Number 8, Captain America's shield. One of the most well-known weapons at this time, and yes, I'm going to call it a weapon because it's a vibranium disc that you bounce off of 9 people's heads and then you catch it. That's a weapon in my books. But it also doubles down as a symbol of patriotism. It's made of vibranium, steel alloy, and proto-adamantium, which is basically Wakandan vibranium, so it's unbreakable. Most of the time. It first appeared in Captain America Comics issue 2, and it was created by Dr. Myron McLean. He was asked by the government to make an impenetrable substance for tanks. Now this was during World War II, so it made sense. So he tried to make this alloy as strong as adamantine, which was the same material that made up Hercules' golden mace. Now eventually it became a disc, and eventually it became a shield that Captain America was given in issue 255. The shield was passed down to Sam from Steve at the end of Avengers Endgame, and now we're seeing the length that some will go for that disc. Number 7, All Black, the Necrosword. The first symbiote was manifested from the shadow of the evil deity Null, and brought together using the power of a celestial, a sword made of living darkness. In King in Black, Return of the Valkyrie issue 2, All Black became tethered to the corpse of a celestial's body, the head became the mining city Nowhere, and the body was turned into the world of the dead. So this dark afterlife, a home for all the souls that the Necrosword has taken. Just a Tim Burton hotel of scariness. So when Gore bonded with the All Black, he lived for over 3,000 years. So it keeps you young. Maybe that's Paul Rudd's secret this whole time. It's super powerful as well. If you think you can just throw the Necrosword into the sun and have it devoured and call it a day, you're horribly mistaken. It would just consume the star. There's another weapon as well that was just introduced in King in Black, but again, I'll mention that later on in the list. Number 6, the Cosmic Cube. Despite the fact that Thanos breaks this to pieces with his bare hands in the opening of Infinity War, the Cosmic Cube is among one of the most powerful items in Marvel Comics. Thanos is just that strong. It appeared first in Tales of Suspense issue 79. It can control matter and energy, of course being controlled by whomever can wield it. Now there are objects in Marvel Comics that look the same, and they're called cosmic containment units, so maybe that's why Thanos could break it to access the Mind Stone. That's our excuse. That, and you had that raw dad strength, that helped too. In Captain Marvel issue 31, Thanos used the Cosmic Cube to become one with the universe, and this allowed him to take on Kronos. They have a straight up mind war, both of them diving into each other's subconscious, trying to break their soul. It was just a staring contest of the cosmos. Number 5, Mjolnir.
What is the name of Thor's hammer?
Mjolnir?
Jonathan?
So close. Mjolnir, the hammer of the gods, the mighty mallet. It first showed up in Journey into Mystery issue 83. It was created out of Asgardian metal, but Odin was the one who made it indestructible, and it's able to break the armor of a celestial. That's how strong this hammer is. The hammer allows its users to fly though, which is pretty fun. Thor, having great strength, can huck this thing, and the leather strap pulls him off the ground, flying at the speed of sound, making him invisible to the naked eye. And if you're somehow deemed worthy to wield the hammer, not only will it feel cool and you'll look like Tim the Toolman Taylor, but you'll also obtain the powers of Thor and access other mystical properties of said hammer. Playing with the forces of the universe, Thor is at one point able to travel backwards in time and forwards in time just by swinging his hammer twice the speed of light. Only a handful have wielded the hammer. Captain America did, of course, in the movie Avengers Endgame, but in the comics he did so for the first time in Thor 390, and again in Fear Itself issue 7. Wonder Woman actually was once deemed worthy in a 1990s crossover, Marvel vs. DC issue 2. Number 4, the Darkhold. At the very end of Marvel's WandaVision, we see Wanda tucked away safely in the woods, studying this book, studying the Darkhold, the Book of the Damned. But what exactly is this thing? Why is Wanda studying it? And are we screwed? Probably. The Darkhold first appeared in comics in Marvel Spotlight issue 4. The elder god Chthon fled Earth billions of years ago, but before he left, he wrote down all of his evil spells into this indestructible book at a chamber called the Dark Hold inside Mount Wundagore. But if you think you can just read these scrolls and make a fireworks show, you're mistaken, not without becoming possessed by Chthon first. Number 3, Kang's time chair. Who would have thought that a chair would make this list? Now, of course, this chair was created by Kang the Conqueror, so he can go anywhere in space and time, all while getting a back massage. How lovely. It appeared for the first time in Avengers issue 8. And even Thor finds his confidence disturbing. The guy's just hanging out, laying back like he's on a beanbag chair, just chilling. He's just straight chilling up while the Avengers are attacking him. But he's fine. Why is he fine? Because this chair has got his back. It's equipped with an advanced laser defense system, a force field, and probably a cup holder. Kang used the chair to explore Captain America's World War II time, and then once it was actually taken over by Iron Man, where he revealed to Kang that his 41st century tech is based off of Stark's 21st century tech. We love time tech, doesn't hurt the brain at all. Number 2, Venom's new axe. Spoilers coming ahead for King in Black. Now, you've been warned, you had like 3 seconds, come on. When it comes to the King in Black, you're gonna need a pretty powerful weapon to make a dent. The Avengers rush in and Venom drops down. No need guys, we got this, he says. Eddie summons Mjolnir and merges it together with the Silver Surfer's board, so now we get this epic weapon. One of the mightiest axes to ever be made. Even Cyclops has no idea what he just saw, like the rest of us. Eddie Brock escaped Null's God Hive and bonded with the Enigma Force, the All-Powers. And Thor's hammer already did a number on his jaw in King in Black issue 3, but combined with the board, it's even more magnificent and pretty unstoppable. And finally, coming in at number 1, you guessed it, the Infinity Gauntlet with stones. Perhaps one of the more common Marvel weapons at this point, it made its first dazzling appearance in Silver Surfer Volume 3, issue 44, back in the 90s. It holds the 6 Infinity Stones, being soul, mind, power, time, reality, and space. But it wasn't until 1991, until the end of that issue, until readers saw what this Glove of Destiny is really capable of. So just like we saw on the big screen in 2018, the Gauntlet and the stones allow Thanos to snap away half of the life in all of the universe. And if that doesn't cut it and somehow the Avengers come snooping around, we see another creative use with this gauntlet. See, in part 4 of the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos at one point weakens himself using the stones because he just wants to take on the Avengers in a more fair fight. That's how confident he is with this gauntlet. He just wants to impress death. I mean, it's pretty creative and brutal how the Mad Titan uses the gauntlet. I mean, Cyclops gets his head stuck in a clear block of force, Vision gets his insides ripped out, and he uses the gauntlet to keep Nebula the opposite of healthy for most of this event. Number 10, the Hulk. The story we're most familiar with is one that I must start with. With skin that is impenetrable to just about anything and super bad super strength, the Incredible Hulk is a force you don't want in any kind of way. Created by the late Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, the Hulk is created when Bruce Banner is accidentally exposed to a gamma bomb. Making his first debut in the Incredible Hulk #1 in 1962, we've seen many different variations of the big green guy, portrayed by actors such as Lou Ferrigno, Eric Bana, Edward Norton, and most notably Mark Ruffalo. Yeah, Mark Ruffalo! He gets stronger the more angry you make him, which makes fighting this guy a really tough time. He even lifted an entire island in Secret Wars. An island. Who do you guys think played Bruce Banner the best in the movies, by the way? Let us know in the comments. We're curious over here. Number 9, She-Hulk. Now, of course, we have to include Banner's cousin, Jennifer Walters. So, while on the verge of death, Bruce Banner gave Jennifer a very small transfusion of Hulk's blood to save her life. What a great cousin. All my cousins do is comment how lame my selfies are on Facebook. The transfusion gave her a very mild version of the Hulk's powers. So yes, She-Hulk is green, and yes, she gets stronger the angrier she gets, but she can change whenever she wants. She's the Hulk, but she still has a hand on the wheel, basically. Now, there are times where she gets a bit too angry and can't control herself, but most of the time, she knows what she's doing. Tatiana Mason Lee will play She-Hulk in her upcoming series on Disney+, set to be released in 2022, and we're all looking forward to that. I know it's gonna be great. Number 8, Doc Green. So after Hulk had gotten shot in the head by the Ancient Order of the Shield, Tony Stark came in yet again to save the day. How, you ask? Well, he used his Extremis virus and injected it into the Hulk to undo damage from the bullet. Not a bad idea, Stark, not a bad idea. We'll give you that. The only side effect was the brand new genius personality for the green guy. That's right, the Hulk had now acquired Banner's smarts. So the next logical step for Doc Green was to create a serum that strips the powers from the other Hulks, because he didn't want there to be any others like him, especially being smart and all. He knew it wasn't a good idea. Eventually the virus had gotten removed and Doc Green reverted back into the Hulk. Thank God. I feel like we don't need a smart Hulk. Like Valkyrie said in Endgame, I think I liked you better either of the other ways. She's on to something. 7. Savage She-Hulk. She's the daughter of Hulk and Thundra, so you already know we gotta include her in this list. She's a very unique version of the hero. For starters, she doesn't get stronger when she gets angry. Instead, she becomes more powerful the more calm she is. That'd be a strange sight to see. Well, I'm going to kill you now. That's wild. So where did these powers come from? Well, when Thundra went back in time, she fought the Hulk. But then the two became friends by the end of it and even shared a kiss. How lovely. So once back in her own timeline, she used the leftover Hulk DNA, added it to her DNA, and then poof, you have Lyra, the Savage She-Hulk. Number 6, Maestro. Okay, remember in Avengers Endgame when Scott Lang tests out the quantum tunnel? He goes from being an adult to an old man to a baby back to an adult. It's actually a pretty comical scene, but what if one of the other Avengers went in? Like, what if you aged the Hulk? Well, making his first appearance in a vision in the Incredible Hulk Volume 2 issue 401, Maestro was the main antagonist in the Incredible Hulk Future Imperfect. The story takes place about 100 or so years in the future after a nuclear war has put the planet close to extinction. So an alternate version of the Hulk, Maestro, had been absorbing all the nuclear radiation the entire time and ended up becoming the strongest thing on the planet. Massive increases in strength and anger, plus the brains of Banner made him arguably unstoppable. I would love to see this version of Hulk on the big screen. In fact, I'd love to see an old version of pretty much any of the Avengers. Not just a scene with old Cap, because you know, then I'll cry. Again. Oh, speaking of Old Man Hulk, number 5. Old Man Hulk. In the Old Man Logan storyline, Hulk was actually a villain. Traitor. Alongside Dr. Doom, Magneto, and Abomination, he actually ends up being the final villain for the story. He ended up having kids with none other than his own cousin, Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk. Okay, interesting choice. Well, it's because she couldn't be poisoned by the radiation, so it made sense to do it, I guess. After they had referred to themselves as Hulk Gang, what up? Some members of the family ended up killing Wolverine's family. Not a good idea. So retired Old Man Logan Wolverine got pissed and killed basically everybody except old Banner and one young offspring. Banner then turns into a very large, very angry monster and swallows Wolverine whole. That's right, he eats him. See, normally you would think that's the end of it, but that is until Wolverine cut through him from the inside and broke free, killing Old Man Hulk in the process. I don't know who I'd rather be in that situation. Like, would you rather be swallowed by a Hulk or would you rather swallow a sharp Old Man Logan? Both sound unpleasant. Number 4, War Hulk. In X-Men Apocalypse, we caught a glimpse at the Horsemen. Apocalypse surrounded himself with the likes of Storm, Cyclops, Gambit, and Archangel before going for Magneto himself. But what if he recruited the Hulk? Well, that's exactly what sort of happened in the Onslaught storyline. After the Hulk and Banner split into 2 separate units and were on different Earths, so the angry green guy ended up being recruited to serve as War, thus giving us War Hulk. This version is a treat. So Apocalypse added to his already terrifying set of skills. The Beast was unstoppable at this point. Even Apocalypse had to put a cap on what he was able to do, because, well, I mean, look at him. Times like these, I really wish Marvel had all the rights to their Fox characters. As much as I love Days of Future Past, this would have been a great way to mix up Banner's storyline in the MCU drastically. Eventually, we got to see this Beast version of Hulk in Thor Ragnarok based on the storyline none other than number 3, Planet Hulk. Arguably the best scene from Thor Ragnarok is when Hulk is the champion of the arena at Sakaar. Once Thor realizes that this is not the same Hulk he had worked with in previous Avengers movies, he had to really put up a fight, and it was awesome to see. To see those two battle it out again after their 2012 Avengers fight, what a ride. This plot comes from the Planet Hulk storyline. So after the Illuminati decided he's too much of a threat to Earth, they send him off on a mission to destroy a rogue satellite. Survey says that was a lie. They were actually intending to send him off to a peaceful planet. But wormholes exist, so the trip went south and Hulk ended up landing on Sakaar, where he is forced to fight for the planet's emperor, the Red King, which in the movie was actually the Grandmaster, played by the most handsome man on the planet, Jeff Goldblum. And if you haven't seen Thor Ragnarok, do yourself a favor and go watch it twice. Hulk plus weapons equals scary. Number 2, World War Hulk. In the sequel to Planet Hulk, Hulk heads to New York City and gives the Illuminati, which is Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Reed Richards, an ultimatum to turn themselves in. The Hulk blames them for the death of his pregnant wife, so he's not too patient. He gives them 24 hours before he would then destroy Manhattan. That's the scariest thing. Imagine seeing that on the news. You're like, can we go? Can we get the hell out of here? Literally nobody can stop him. Doctor Strange even got in his head and tried to talk him down, and it of course does not work. Iron Man attempts to level the Beast with his Hulkbuster armor, but We all know how that would go. It fails. For a guy who gets stronger the angrier he gets, this is quite the event. I feel like this would have been a great on-screen plot as well. I mean, if Banner had come back from Sakaar still angry and out of control, who knows what he would have done to the Avengers, especially if Nat wasn't around? Oh boy. And finally, number 1, Amadeus Cho. Making his debut in Amazing Fantasy Volume 2, number 15, Korean-American raised in Arizona, Amadeus Cho participated in a quiz show named Brain Fight. How fitting. At just the age of 15, Amadeus won that quiz show. He won $5,000 while being deemed the 7th smartest man in the world. Not a bad title at all. I think I'm like number 9, maybe 10, I don't know. 11? Really? Okay. The organizer of the quiz show is none other than Pythagoras Dupree. He was the 6th smartest man in the world and basically just wanted to find the biggest brain and take out the competition. Pythagoras sent out a squad of goons to kill Amadeus. Barely escaping, he ran away and then he met the Incredible Hulk. Years later, Amadeus would eventually become totally awesome Hulk. See, he got stuck with a dangerous amount of radiation that should have made him go mad, but instead he used special nanites to absorb the Hulk's powers. Nice. He took pride in trying to be a better, smarter Hulk. What a good guy, what a good kid, rather. At one point, he actually exiled himself into space on a satellite, just so he could study himself and make sure he still has the ability to control everything that's going on. Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Rick Flag. Played by Joel Kinnaman, Rick Flag was in the 2016 Suicide Squad film, directed by David Ayer, and it wasn't received well by the public, so much so that fans have been petitioning for a release of the hashtag Ayer cut. But that's, yeah, it's not gonna happen, I don't think. But we do get another shot with our loved characters. This time around, Rick Flag looks even more badass. Rick Flag is an elite soldier and government agent who works for Task Force X. So like we see in the film adaptation, Rick is the leader of the first Suicide Squad. Yes, there are more than one, which I'll get into later. Amanda Waller enlisted him when she created the Suicide Squad, which is a task force made of supervillains who take on these high-risk missions in order to get parole, reduce sentences, freedom, something glorious, something to look forward to use their abilities in a good way, or some kind of good way. He made his first comic book debut in The Brave and the Bold issue 25, titled The 3 Waves of Doom. And we're looking forward to seeing James Gunn version of him come August 4th. The third wave of Doom sounds familiar up here in Canada, hence why I'm in my apartment. And before we continue with some other dangerous Suicide Squad members, guys, that like button needs some love right now. You can feel it, I don't know, it's right there, it wants a little. So if you want to go ahead and click that, it helps our studio out quite a bit. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching. Now let's get right back into this list. I don't want to waste too much every time. Number 9, Bloodsport. Idris Elba is making the jump from a major Marvel character to a major Superman villain. That's right, Bloodsport. He made his first comic book debut back in Superman Volume 2, issue 14, and the first Bloodsport, there's of course more than one, that's how these things go, classic comic book villains, but the first one was Robert Dubois. Robert got drafted as a young man, but instead fled to Canada, and his brother had to take his place instead. Now his brother Mickey ended up losing his arm and legs when he got drafted, so Robert was a little messed up after carrying that guilt with him. So much so that he spent the next 12 years going back and forth between psychiatric hospitals. That is until Lex Luthor found him and used him as a way to take down Superman. He gave Robert this device that could teleport any weapon to him, and one of them of course being a gun that fires needles of kryptonite. So they used his guilt and made him into one of the most feared members. Whatever version of this character we get in the James Gunn film, I'm sure it will be a blast. Pun intended. Number 8, King Shark.
And?
Yes, that is your hand. Very good.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to miss that guy in the trailer because, you know, he's a shark. We have a shark now. Great. Who's this shark guy? What's going on? Is it Left Shark? Well, he made his comic book debut back in Superboy Volume 4. He was born in Hawaii and he's a humanoid shark, which I probably didn't need to point out, but his father is the king of all sharks, literally referred to as the shark god. So he was responsible for a few missing persons case, of course, being a hungry shark living in Hawaii and all, and it took a combination of heavy weaponry and sheer luck just to bring him in. Sam Makoa was the one who had to bring him in as well. What a unlucky shift. And several officers were actually taken out during this, so it was quite a mess. Now, as far as his origins go, for the Suicide Squad movie, they could go either way, because his sharkness is rumored to come from a variety of sources. He says his dad is a shark god, but others have said he's just a wild man, which is a race of humanoid animals, and the government thinks he's just a savage mutation from an experiment gone wrong. Either way, he's kind of cute and he's a shark, so I love him. Number 7, Parasite. Rudolph Rudy Jones. He made his first appearance in Firestorm Volume 2, issue 58, And he started off as a janitor at the Pittsburgh branch of Star Labs, but like anything else that happens at Star Labs, his life was soon changed forever because there was an accident. Well, not really an accident, but while nobody was around, Darkseid turned Rudy into this new version of the Parasite. See, he had existed before Crisis on Infinite Earths, but then that's when Maxwell Jensen was Parasite, so. Darkseid controlled him, made him open a waste container, and then he was exposed to this radiation that turned him into this new green skin, well, parasite, of course. So now Rudy has the ability to absorb all the life out of others, leaving just a skeleton sitting there behind. How gross would that be to find on a bus? Now his own body constantly needs to consume more and more or else he won't be able to survive. Hungry, hungry parasite, what a menace. Number 6, Bronze Tiger. Ben Turner is one of the best when it comes to martial arts. He actually is the best. He studied with Richard Dragon under the O-Sensei, but was later brainwashed by the League of Assassins. So we have a great fighter, and then just like that, we have a well-trained fighter on their team. Awesome, that was sick. What's the point of that? He's one of the coolest members because he doesn't have powers, which is amazing, and I had to include him in this list. He's just that good at fighting. He has quick reflexes, and he's mastered pretty much every style of fighting. Be it boxing, jiu-jitsu, karate, Muay Thai, taekwondo, you name it, he can break your arms in so many ways. I think that's a better way of putting it. His chi manipulation ability certainly does come in handy though. He uses this to enhance his concentration and heal quicker. In Suicide Squad issue 7, Bronze Tiger is actually able to defeat the speedster Bolshoi. So no powers, but he can still take out a speedster. That's pretty impressive. Number 5, Windfall. Wendy Jones, a former member of the Masters of Disaster, made her DC debut back in Batman in The Outsiders issue 9. Now, she got her powers originally after her mother let her company perform DNA experiments on Wendy and her sister Becky. It was so awful what they went through that Becky actually took out her own mother later in life because of this. She was not happy and she carried a lot of guilt. So her and her sister were once part of the Masters of Disaster, but while Wendy was in school later on, these frat guys assaulted her, to say the least, just awful human beings, and one of those jerks' father was the local district attorney, and he refused to make a case for her when she reported it because of her past as a supervillain. Although his own son is a piece of shit monster. For sure, that makes sense, good logic. Now the college actually kicked Wendy out for this whole scandal, so Wendy returned later to the college and got some good old-fashioned revenge, suffocating that same fraternity by removing the air from their house. So after she was put in Belle Reve Penitentiary, then that's when Amanda recruited her for the Suicide Squad. Number 4, Count Vertigo. The villain that makes you puke. Werner Vertigo made his first debut in World's Finest issue 251, and he comes from the Vladivan royal family. And like his name gives away, his superpower is pretty unique and kind of gross. He makes his enemies disoriented, okay? So he started off by going against Black Canary and Green Arrow, but eventually he made his way to the Suicide Squad. Now, his initial plan before the Suicide Squad was quite simple. He went to Star City to steal back some jewels that his parents had sold when they escaped to England after the war. So he was born with an inner ear problem that affected his balance. So he had a device that helped out planted in the right side of his temple. Now, after messing around with the device, which is something you don't do with any device near your temple, he realized that he had the ability to distort others' perception. Now, it was so bad that they couldn't tell which way was up or down. So he ended up on the naughty list, of course, but he accepted an offer to join the Suicide Squad in order to get his prison sentence reduced. Number 3, Deadshot. Played by the Fresh Prince himself, Will Smith, in the other Suicide Squad movie, Deadshot, aka Floyd Lawton, made his first comic book debut in Batman issue 59. His origin stories are pretty dark, okay? So his parents were both wealthy and they idolized his older brother Edward a lot. Now his father was unfaithful, so his mother actually asked her 2 sons to take him out. That's terrible. So Edward locked Floyd in the boathouse because Floyd wanted to go and at least warn his father, you know, tell him what was going on. So Floyd broke out and he grabbed a hunting rifle where he climbed a tree and saw that his brother had already shot his father. He wasn't dead, but he was paralyzed after the first shot. But then when Edward was preparing to take another shot to end him, Floyd aimed his rifle and shot at him. Now, Floyd meant to disarm him. He meant to, but the branch that he was on had snapped at the last second, so that bullet actually went through the middle of his eyes, which dished out a lot more damage than he intended to. So he took out the brother he loved to protect the father that he hated. That sounds just like a DC villain, if you ask me. So after that point, he was trained by David Kane to become the professional assassin we now know as Deadshot. Number 2, Enchantress, aka June Moon. She made her first debut back in Strange Adventures issue 187 back in 1966, where right at the top it says, "Meet the switcheroo witcheroo, the Enchantress." Now it sounds fun, but she's actually a nightmare. She of course is a member of the Suicide Squad, and Cara Delevingne played her in the first movie. But in the comics, her origins are pretty tragic. See, June Moon was a freelance artist who was dating this guy named Alan Dell. Dell invited her out one evening to a party at the haunted Terror Castle, which sounds like a good time for sure. But while she was there, she fell into a chamber with this being named Zamor, which granted her witch powers. So now every time she says the name Enchantress, she changes into a green-eyed, powerful Enchantress. The downside is whenever June uses these Enchantress abilities and creates magic too quickly, her personality becomes volatile and evil, which explains how she dips into the villain role. And finally, number 1, Amanda Waller. I have to cap this list off with the boss lady herself. She made her debut in DC Comics with Legends issue 1, and she was a powerful political figure who has been in many law enforcement agencies. They referred to her as the Wall because of how aggressive and stubborn she is. She rebuilt Task Force X with Rick Flag assigned to work under her, who I mentioned at the beginning of this list. And eventually she revived the Suicide Squad under her own direction. She's a great character. I mean, Suicide Squad issue 10 was titled Up Against the Wall. It is a fan favorite with her. Many fans have pointed out that this was the issue where we had the biggest change of pace, and it stepped it up for the Suicide Squad quite a bit. It's this epic story that puts the Dark Knight himself against Amanda Waller. So in this issue, Batman discovers the existence of the Suicide Squad, and his next step of action is to threaten Amanda and say that he's gonna blow the whistle on the whole operation, but Amanda doesn't handle that offer too well because, well, she's the Wall. She explains back to Batman that if he does this, she will use everything in her power to find out who he is and expose him. See, because he used his Matches Malone cover, he wasn't wearing gloves. So when he first investigated Belrave Penitentiary, no gloves means fingerprints. So that threat is not a bad threat at all, Amanda Waller. No powers and you're calling the shots. You're number 1 in my books.
And at number 10, Mr. Freeze. There's no doubt that Mr. Freeze, aka Victor Fries, is one of Batman's most deadly foes. He's a former cryogenics expert who got into a lab accident when trying to cure his terminally ill wife. He built himself a criminal empire in order to have the funds to continue his research. Freeze ends up at the bottom of our list primarily because he's a villain who often cooperates quite well with Arkham's staff, and his tragic and complex nature often lends him to be a more empathetic villain. Compared to the others on our list, or our part 1, Mr. Freeze isn't really trying to vindictively kill others in Arkham. On some occasions, he's even been allowed to continue his research while locked up there, and he's considered one of the only sane inmates in the asylum, primarily there because of its intensive security and ability to have specialized holding cells, which Freeze needs in order to maintain his body temperature and stay alive. And at number 9, Two-Face. Harvey Dent first appeared in Detective Comics issue 66 back in 1942, making him one of the longest running adversaries of Bruce Wayne's. After acidic chemicals are thrown at him during a court trial, the once Gotham City District Attorney went insane, adopting the criminal persona of Two-Face thanks to his appearance. Becoming obsessed with the concepts of chance and fate, the character is often depicted as schizophrenic, bipolar, or having some sort of dissociative identity disorder, meaning he's exactly the kind of individual who, based on his criminal record, needs to be in Arkham, despite the facility's extraordinary track record when it comes to not reforming its inmates. In his post-crisis depiction, Dent had always had mental health issues, but managed to hide them thanks to his unyielding work ethic. Regardless of that, Two-Face's list of crimes is quite massive, and his unpredictability makes him a force of nature that needs to be approached with severe caution. And at 8, Lex Luthor. Ah yes, the DCEU Lex Luthor. Like much of the rest of Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, Luthor got a whole lot of hate for being a very weird depiction of the supervillain. He was sort of like the Joker meets the Riddler meets Jesse Eisenberg with a shaved head. Anywho, he ended up getting thrown into Arkham, which is something that's revealed in the Ultimate Edition of the film, with some dialogue noting that Batman pulled some strings to get him transferred there. Lex managed to break out of Arkham after hearing about Superman's resurrection and the formation of the Justice League, proving once again that Arkham, even in its cinematic adaptations, is super easy to break out of. Seriously, how many times has the Joker broken out? Yeah, it's a lot. And at 7, Deadshot. Deadshot might not be the first character to come to mind when you think of deadly Arkham inmates, but do not be fooled. He's the most dangerous assassin in Gotham City, and knows his way around a ton of firearms, using them as his main MO. Initially, he found himself being locked away in Blackgate Prison, but ended up being sent over to Arkham when he proved that he required a special maximum security facility in order to keep him in check. And at 6, the Riddler. Edward Nygma first hit the scene in DC's comics back in 1948, in Detective Comics issue 140. He's a criminal mastermind with a genius-level intellect capable of extraordinary lateral thinking when it comes to formulating puzzles and decoding them. Arguably, his deductive abilities gives the Dark Knight a run for his money. With no superhuman abilities and relying on being a brilliant strategist, the Riddler often gets real creative with his, well, riddles. and traps, making him someone that any old civilian or criminal needs to be extremely cautious when in close proximity to. And at number 5, Dr. Earliest recurring villains, having first appeared in Detective Comics issue 36 back in 1940. He debuted as a mad scientist bad guy who uses something called a concentrated lightning machine to create dense fog in order to allow his gang to rob banks unseen. Batman stops him and Strange manages to set a trap for him, but eventually the Dark Knight is victorious and ships him off to jail. Strange's next appearance features him breaking out of the city asylum, prior to it being given the name Arkham. He uses 5 other inmates as test subjects, turning them into 15-foot tall monsters. Fast forward to post-crisis, his origin story changes, with him initially helping a police task force capture Batman, becoming absolutely obsessed with the Caped Crusader. He ends up using inmates from Arkham to test out his experiments before having a mental breakdown of his own. His obsession with Batman and his genius-level intellect, along with his mastery of chemicals and psychology, makes him a threat to anyone locked up with him. He's been known to manipulate the worst of individuals. In addition to that, he plays a massive role in the Arkham City video game, with him being a ringmaster of sorts. It's all about manipulation with Doctor Strange. And he's not Doctor Strange, he's Hugo Strange. It's all about manipulation with Hugo Strange. And finally, in at number 1, Bruce Wayne. No one said this list had to only be bad guys. Batman has been admitted to Arkham on several occasions. And actually, Bruce Wayne's admission to Arkham is the entrance point for the storyline in the Arkham City video game. In that case, Bruce ends up getting admitted so he can put an end to the chaos that's now brewing inside of the newly established Arkham City, dragging him into a bigger plot by Hugo Strange and ultimately the Joker, in what is arguably the best written game of the series and one of the best superhero video games of all time. Anywho, in the comics, Batman was once admitted to Arkham after Jeremiah Arkham had rebuilt the facility in order to test out its effectiveness and functionality, which ultimately led— if you're working on effects on a film set, you really should not be prone to poverty. But such is the life in Gotham apparently. This causes him to go on a crime spree and become a professional arsonist. At one point, he even started a fire in a chemical plant, which caused an explosion, resulting in Firefly catching fire himself, which inspired him to later make a fireproof suit for future criminal endeavors. Surprising that Garfield did not think to do that before he was severely burnt. You playing with fire, you're gonna get burned. Amygdala. You may not remember Amygdala, but he was one of the inmates that Bane unleashed on Gotham in the events of Nightfall. Amygdala's name comes from the part of the brain that helps to control emotions and is responsible for storing emotional memories, which helps your brain determine appropriate emotional responses to certain situations. Man, if I say emotional one more time. Amygdala had this part of his brain removed in an attempt to help diminish his violent and homicidal tendencies. However, this had the opposite effect, as he no longer possessed the part of the brain that helped him to be self-aware when it came to his emotional responses, making him just rage all the time. He has the physique of a championship bodybuilder and as such can be very dangerous when he goes into a rage. Fortunately, Batman is often able to calm him down, and he even spends some time as one of the good guys, living as an ally and in the same apartment as Dick Grayson while working as a warden at a prison. Number 5. James Gordon Jr. Many people are familiar with Commissioner Gordon's daughter, Barbara Gordon. She is also a member of the Bat family as Batgirl and was for a time Batman's tech whiz as Oracle. She is also the leader of Birds of Prey and on-again, off-again love interest of Dick Grayson. But what do you know about Jim's son? James Gordon Jr. may not often be talked about in the comics, but it's not because he's not interesting. He just kinda decided to go in the opposite direction of his sister. James Jr. is actually a psychotic murderer. He was taking medication to help him with his psychotic tendencies, but he's a smart man and he was able to actually reformulate his meds to make him more psychotic instead. He believes that empathy is a weakness and aims to take down the Bat and, in turn, poison an infant nutritional facility. It's gonna make everybody psychotic. Woo! Number 4. Solomon Grundy. A villain who just keeps dying and coming back. Solomon Grundy is best described as a zombie. While he isn't always a bad guy, he did work alongside Hawkgirl in the Justice League animated series and even died in the process and went to heaven. He is definitely not someone you'd want to run into in a dark alley. Solomon Grundy was first introduced in 1944 and at the time was kind of DC's Hulk equivalent. He is super strong and large with limited intellect, and he is also gray, which was the Hulk's original color. While he has changed over time, his smarts, or lack thereof, still seem to be his downfall, making him a powerful character but not a criminal mastermind. He usually works underneath more acclaimed villains, acting as the muscle. In fact, he's even been mind controlled by supervillain Gorilla Grodd for such a purpose. He appears as an asylum inmate in the Injustice games. Cheetah. One of Wonder Woman's most notable nemeses, Cheetah is slated to be the new big bad for our heroine actually in her newest film, Wonder Woman 1984. Her weird cheetah-like abilities make her a surprisingly formidable foe for Diana Prince, though the version in the film is actually Barbara Ann Minerva, whereas the original Cheetah was Priscilla Rich, who actually made her debut only a couple of years after Wonder Woman in the comics. Priscilla Rich is also the incarnation we're referring to in this list. She fights against Wonder Woman and some other members of the Justice League in Arkham Asylum in the fun comic series Batman 66 meets Wonder Woman 77. This version of Cheetah is a wealthy socialite who is jealous of Wonder Woman and is skilled in acrobatics. Number 2. Brainiac. So this only happens in the LEGO Batman games, but it still happened. And Brainiac is one of the most powerful telepaths in the DC universe, and is pretty undefeatable in most continuities, though not all continuities. In LEGO Batman 3 Beyond Gotham, the villain's appetite seems to have surpassed just shrinking cities. Instead, he aims to shrink the entire Earth by absorbing the energies of a representative lantern from each of the different lantern corps, and focusing that energy through a power crystal. He ends up defeated and shrunk down himself, so cute, before being placed in Arkham Asylum. He does of course manage to escape shortly afterward, however, when Luthor accidentally breaks the glass bottle that Brainiac is being kept in, and he is returned to his normal size. Number 1. Superman. In Emperor Joker, Superman becomes an inmate at Arkham Asylum daily. He always escapes but is recaptured by Bizarro, who once again locks him up in the asylum. In this altered reality, everyone believes him to be a murderer despite the fact that he professes his innocence. He finally manages to break this cycle when he gets captured by a somewhat evil corporate version of Lois Lane. She can't help but be drawn to him, though she doesn't really know why she is. She originally decides to help him only so she can trap him and experiment on him, but sets him free because she finds she has inexplicable feelings for him. Oh, I wonder why.
In at number 10, the Ventriloquist. Ventriloquist, aka Arnold Wesker, is a criminal genius who suffers from dissociative identity disorder, which manifests itself in the dummy he carries around with him, a psychotic puppet called Scarface. When he first appeared in the comics, he would execute his crimes via Scarface, who was dressed up like Al Capone. There has been 2 others to take up the mantle of Ventriloquist aside from Wesker, who at one point was killed off in the comics. The other 2 are Peyton Riley and Shauna Belzer, the latter appearing in the New 52 as a foe of Batgirl's. While Wesker has no superhuman powers and lacks much of an ability in hand-to-hand combat, he's a master criminal strategist, and sometimes brains are more dangerous than brawn when it comes to Arkham Asylum. In at number 9, Maxi Zeus. Maxi Zeus is a bit more of an obscure Batman villain. He is a delusional criminal who firmly believes that he is literally the Greek god Zeus. First appearing in Detective Comics issue 483 back in 1979, Maxi was a Greek history teacher who lost his mind after he lost his wife. Using his intelligence and cunning, the character became a prominent criminal figure in Gotham. When he was initially locked up in Arkham in Batman and the Outsiders issue 14, Bat suggested that he be put in the maximum security wing. Instead, he was placed in a regular security cell and eventually escaped because of it, forming a team of mythology-based superhuman agents called the New Olympians afterwards. On top of his comic book appearances, he's also present in the Arkhamverse video games. Well, somewhat. There's a cell in the Arkham Asylum video game covered in Greek symbols implying that it was once Maxi's. You can find it in the patient pacification chamber in the intensive treatment center. Then, in Arkham City, you can find his nightclub Gotham City Olympus, along with a story that tells how he disappeared after a few electroshock therapy sessions. In at number 8, Tweedledum and Tweedledee. Upon first look, Tweedledum and Tweedledee may not be all that intimidating, but don't let their comical appearance fool you. Based off of the characters from Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, these two were first introduced into the DC universe back in 1943. During the Golden Age, they were significantly less of an issue than they are post New 52. Their powers back then consisted of them using their fat bodies to roll and bounce around. I shit you not. These days, they have superhuman strength and resistance, essentially making them big old dangerous bodyguard types. They can lift up to 1 ton, definitely a pair that you wouldn't want to get into a fight with. In at 7, Doodlebug. Doodlebug, aka Daedalus Bok, is a self-proclaimed artist of sorts. Or rather, he believes he receives visions of inspiration and then recreates said visions on whatever canvas they indicate, which often means he uses people as a canvas. Gross. Dude is a murderer. He killed his cellmate Junkyard Dog, who was a poor fellow obsessed with collecting and investigating trash, by plucking his heart out of his chest with his bare hands. Just like, oh. Kill Bill style. This was part of his satanic ritual, of course. Aside from having a few awkward similarities to Jean-Michel Basquiat, both physically and stylistically when it comes to Doodlebug's
art. The character is one of the more obscure Arkham inmates, having only appeared in Arkham Asylum Living Hell for 6 issues in 2003. And at number 6, Death Rattle. Death Rattle actually killed our previous number, Doodlebug, as part of a demonic sacrifice. A lot of rituals going on in Arkham sometimes. Needless to say, he's one creepy dude. Erasmus Death Rattle Rain is not only a serial killer, he's also a cult leader, and claims that he's a psychic. He founded his own religion, which generally doesn't operate on any sort of ethical foundation whatsoever. He also went about killing 56 members of his congregation, so clearly it's not the most predictable of religious institutions, that's for sure. Plus he shared a cell with Warren White, aka Great White Shark, so you know he ain't a pushover. Death Rattle believes that he can communicate with the dead, and when Arkham was attacked by demons and ghosts of its inmates' victims, the former members of his church told him to throw himself into the fires and sacrifice himself. Death Rattle willingly did it, but turns out the ghost just wanted him to die and rot in hell. Ghosts have feelings too, you guys. Moving on to number 5, Prometheus. Prometheus is a villain who is a foil to Batman of sorts. He possesses no actual superhuman abilities, but instead has undergone training similar to Bruce Wayne's. He's done intensive mental and physical training, uses similar technology to the Cape Crusaders, and even has a strobe light capable of disorientation and hypnotism. He can also download the knowledge and physical skills of his foes into his brain via a compact disc, which is like kind of insane and kind of dates him a little bit. There have been a few iterations of Prometheus over the years, with the most popular one being an unnamed villain. The son of 2 hippies who was traumatized at a young age when his parents were brutally killed by police. This led to him undergoing a similar journey to Bruce Wayne's, except fighting on the opposite side than the Dark Knight. In other words, a man with that kind of determination, willpower, and commitment to annihilating the forces of justice ain't someone to take lightly, especially not in Arkham. And at number 4, the Mad Hatter. Mad Hatter is yet another one of the more comical members of Batman's rogue gallery, and he's been in Arkham quite a lot over the years. First appearing back in 1948 in Batman issue 49, the Mad Hatter, aka Jervis Tetch, didn't have many friends growing up due to his physical appearance, but what he did have though was a genius level intellect, which led to him becoming a neuroscientist and inventing a mind control technology. He knows how to dominate and control the human mind like the back of his hand, often making use of hypnosis. He's also great at hiding covert mind control devices, which means he's definitely the guy that you'd want to hit up in prison to sneak in contraband. But surely, that would come with a price. In at 3, Catwoman. Catwoman, aka Selina Kyle, has straddled the line of anti-hero and villain for many years now. Initially a baddie back in the golden age of comics when she first appeared in Batman issue 1 of 1940, she's an expert burglar, skilled gymnast, and knows her way around hand-to-hand combat. Don't even get us started on her cunningness or intellect. Girl has outsmarted some of the best, even Batman at times. While she wouldn't initially be a threat on your radar if you were locked up in Arkham, piss her off and, you know, you're in for a whole lot of trouble. Selina's capabilities are not to be taken lightly, and she can kick some serious butt, especially when you least expect it. Now from one anti-hero to the next, in at number 2, Harley Quinn. Now if you were to stroll into Arkham and you're like, who's gonna be an immediate threat? Well, Harley Quinn and her unpredictability factor is definitely deadly and should be avoided. Hopefully you wouldn't end up in Arkham though, because it's a fictional place. You do not want to accidentally come face to face with Harley Quinn when she's having a bad day, or even say the wrong, or sometimes even the right thing to get her going. Having spent quite a lot of time with the Joker can do that to you. Harley first appeared in Batman the Animated Series before making her comic debut in 1999 in Batman Harley Quinn. She was initially a psychiatrist who worked at Arkham, Dr. Harleen Quinzel, who fell victim to the manipulation and influence of the Joker, falling in love with him and becoming his sidekick and accomplice. She herself became quite skilled in manipulation, and her unpredictability, as we mentioned, is one of the most dangerous things about her. These days, Harley has shifted into anti-hero territory, no longer in the Joker's grasp. Instead, she's now dating her once best friend Poison Ivy, and the side perk of that relationship is she's become immune to various toxins, healing quicker from minor wounds, as well as getting a boost in strength and her natural agility, something that definitely would come in handy when it comes to riots at Arkham, since those seem to happen a lot. And finally, in at number 1, Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul is a criminal and mastermind. He's got a genius level intellect, he's a master alchemist, a master swordsman, has longevity thanks to the Lazarus Pits, and a knowledge of mystical objects. There's a lot going on there that you would definitely not want to run into and ever cause trouble with. On top of that, he's also a villain with a point, and really, that's probably the most dangerous thing on this list. When it comes to being locked up in Arkham Asylum with Ra's is the leader of the League of Assassins, meaning he's got a whole lot of henchmen, and that is not something that is good in Arkham Asylum if you were not someone who has a whole lot of henchmen. Ra's has also been a match for Batman many a time. Hell, he respects Batman, referring to him as detective. Ra's has been described as a 700-year-old international and has come back to life on multiple occasions, meaning he's not the kind of dude you want to have holding a grudge against you. He's also a guy who believes that achieving perfect environmental balance is achieved by killing off most of humanity, so like that is also a thing. fellow as ruthless as that ain't someone you want to be tangoing with in a prison cell, that's for damn sure.
Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Weasel. He's one of those new additions to the team in the highly anticipated James Gunn soft reboot, but who exactly is this sketchy looking villain? All I know is that James Gunn's brother is doing the physical stuff for him, which is great. He did all the work for Rocket Raccoon and Guardians of the Galaxy, so it's gonna be fun. Whatever it is, it's gonna be fun, but who is this guy? Is he powerful? Is he evil? What's his deal? Well, he made his first debut back in Firestorm Volume 2, Issue 36. He made his mark at Stanford University working alongside Professor Martin Stein. Even before this happened, he wasn't liked by other students. He was deemed an unremarkable and unlikable man, and sadly was given the nickname Weasel. He wasn't a fan of this, obviously. It made him pretty insecure, so when he got hired as a teacher at Candermere University, he was easily fed up with the other faculty members, as it was just those mean students grown up. So, of course. So he viewed them as a threat, obviously, and he dressed up like this Weasel character and started taking them out. He started attacking them one by one. Now, as far as Suicide Squad members go, this is one of the weaker ones pulled out of Belrave Penitentiary. But he is going to be in the new film, so we got to talk about him at least a little bit. He didn't last long in the comics either. His last issue was Doom Patrol and Suicide Squad Special Issue 1, where during a mission to rescue Hawk, Weasel took out the Thinker, who I'll mention later on in this list. And then when Rick Flag put on the Thinker's helmet, the Thinker's last thought took over, and Rick ended up being the one to take the Weasel out. I'm pretty sure this is going to happen in the movie, but if not, we're still happy. He appeared later on in the comics as well, but this was during the Blackest Night storyline when he was revived as a Black Lantern. And before we continue on with this list of Suicide Squad members, guys, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, that would be great. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for your support. We're going to get right back into the video. Let's go. Number 9, Bane. It's kind of hard to forget a villain like Bane. He's a big fan of, you know, breaking backs. And when you break the back of somebody like Batman, you're gonna have to be locked up away for probably a little while. Bane is a super smart villain, and the steroid called Venom that's being pumped into his veins sure does help get the attention of the Suicide Squad. I mean, once you break the bat, that's a pretty good audition, I'd say. At the end of the series, Suicide Squad raised the flag. Amanda Waller recruited Bane to the Suicide Squad, and we once again see Bane rocking the camelback of strength. He's got his Venom again, this time in Outsiders issue 50. The team makes their grand entrance, and Bane, right off the bat, doesn't like following the instructions of leader Rick Flag. Flag says to just simply use the stun gun, and Bane's like, nope, gonna do it my way, thank you, sir. So it's no surprise when the team tricks Bane in Salvation Run issue 2. See, they're assigned to ship villains to Salvation by using boom tubes, and Bane and Deadshot ended up being sent as well. Yeah, get that psycho out of here. Go break some other backs. Or don't break backs, how about that? Go back into jail. Number 8, Killer Croc. A face we saw in David Ayer's Suicide Squad, a face that's rather terrifying, and a face you wouldn't really forget. Killer Croc, aka Waylon Jones, made his first appearance in Detective Comics issue 523. He was born in Florida and faced a medical condition that, well, look at him, it turned him into a crocodile. When he was an adult, he began wrestling alligators at carnivals just to make ends meet, hence the name Killer Croc. That was his stage name at first. But realizing crime was suited best for Waylon, he left the carnival and became one of Gotham's most feared criminals. He wasn't a member until the recent 2016 run of Suicide Squad, and he's like, okay, anything but space. I'll do the missions as long as it's not in space. First mission they go to, space. Number 7, Outlaw. John Henry Martin made his first debut in Manhunter issue 16, but he did in fact join the Suicide Squad in issue 58 of the run from the early 90s. But where exactly did his villain journey start? Well, while John was serving time in prison, because that's how every supervillain starts in comics, this bomb called the Gene Bomb exploded, and it gave him super strength, and it allowed for him to be protected against attacks as well. He couldn't control his abilities well, but he did have these super abilities. He escaped prison, but he didn't get too far, being, you know, unexperienced in his new abilities, so he, alongside other Gene Bomb metahuman victims, were put in Belrave prison, but they couldn't find any traces of these powers that he used, so they just had to send him back out to the first prison that he easily broke out of the first time around. And during the transportation to go back to that prison, he broke out near the Florida-Georgia border, and then Bob's your own way. Number 6, Atom Smasher. He's the grandson of the supervillain Cyclotron, so you already know he's gonna be a hard time. Meet Albert Rothstein. He made his comic book debut at All-Star Squadron issue 25, and his powers were passed down. Those powers being pretty spectacular. He can control the size of his body. He can change his molecular structure, and he was also the godson of the Golden Age version of the Atom, Al Pratt. In 52, issue 24, Amanda Waller recruits Atom Smasher to go against Black Adam. He actually recruits the squad himself, where he brings on Count Vertigo Electrocutioner, Persuader, Plastique, and Captain Boomerang 2. Number 5, Captain Boomerang. Okay, so I mentioned Captain Boomerang 2, but we gotta talk about the original, the OG Captain Boomerang. We saw him in the first Suicide Squad movie played by Jai Courtney, and he made his first appearance back in The Flash issue 117. George Harkness was originally a Flash villain, and if you can take on the fastest man alive, you've got a pretty good resume. So far, so good. His skill set shouldn't shock you given his name, Captain Boomerang. He was the son of an American toy maker, and he created these special boomerangs that helped him get into trouble, alongside his pal Mick Wentworth. Nothing more intimidating than a guy with boomerangs, okay? So of course, Amanda Waller had to recruit this wacky villain. In exchange for a pardon and a prison release, of course, he was sent in to attack Brimstone at Mount Rushmore. I'm excited to see James Gunn's version of Captain Boomerang. He's said to be more or so the same as his version from the last one, but we'll see. He might have a little flashier outfit. I'm okay with that. Number 4, Chemo. He made his first debut at Showcase issue 39 in a story called The Deathless Doom. Now, the scientist kept failing, one experiment after another, but he kept working. He was dedicated to the cause. For science, people, science. So Chemo was not the name of the scientist. No, the scientist's name was Ramsey Norton. Chemo would be an awful name for a scientist. Chemo was the name he had given this plastic vessel to store all these chemicals after the experiments had failed. Big old vat of yuck. So when he finally added some failed growth formula to the mix, this vat came to life. This toxic creation who kept the name Chemo, of course. He ended up taking out the poor scientist that had created him, which is right off the bat truly evil stuff. I feel bad for Chemo though, I'll be honest, because he didn't find out he wasn't a living thing until Supergirl told him in Supergirl Volume 4, Issue 5. She told him he's just a collection of chemicals, and he was so upset he dispersed himself in the atmosphere and then it rained. In Adventures of Superman, he did join the Suicide Squad briefly in issue 593. He worked alongside Manchester Black, Plasmus, and Shrapnel, and their plan was to take out Superman. Number 3, The Thinker. He made his first debut in The Flash issue 12 back in the 40s, and he's been around for quite a while. And while his alias doesn't sound too intimidating, Clifford DeVoe is not one you want to mess around with. We can see him in the trailers for James Gunn's Suicide Squad, and I feel like he'll be around in the movie for quite a while. It seems like he's in quite a good amount of shots. He began his life as Keystone City's district attorney back in 1913, but his life changed when he joined mob boss Norvac one night when he was intoxicated. Just one of those decisions you make when you're drunk and you're like, well, I guess I'm just gonna roll with it. He offered his skills, well, his services rather, as a thinker, a preparer of alibis and legal precedents in order to keep bad guys out of jail. So Novak was like, score, we could definitely use you on our team. Let's go, here's a house, enjoy. So Novak was later on tricked by the Thinker himself when he shot at a reflection in a steel mirror, which caused the bullet to ricochet and then hit himself. So the Thinker wasn't even involved in this case. He had nothing to do with it, really. He got on the Flash's naughty list, but when the Thinker developed the thinking cap, it allowed him to project mental force upon his enemies. So he's got the brains and power to take down many foes. He accepted a mission with the Suicide Squad in order to get a full pardon, where he was seemingly taken out by the Weasel of all people. But in reality, he survived because he's smarter than that. He's a thinker. He actually went on to become friends with Jay Garrick, and you know what? We love a change of heart. Number 2, Peacemaker. John Cena himself is making his debut as Peacemaker in James Gunn's Suicide Squad, but he's also getting his own spin-off series. How exciting is this? When he was first asked about the role during DC Fandom, Cena himself compared the character to a terrible, cocky Captain America, which sounds about right. So Christopher Smith showed up early in comics with the Fightin' 5 issue 40. That was when he was with Charlton Comics. He was part of a paramilitary force that kept the world safe. I mean, he didn't even carry weapons that could cause bodily harm. That's how much he meant well. But then after Crisis on Infinite Earths, he entered DC Comics with the same name, only now he has no problem taking out bad guys, all while spreading peace and love. So the guy's a maniac, basically. To be honest, I could probably watch this guy for an entire season of a show. Definitely, John Cena is great. He's so funny, and he's also so ripped and humongous and terrifying. So it's gonna be a good time. And finally, number 1, Killer Frost. Louise Lincoln, aka Killer Frost. She's actually the second Killer Frost in the comics, but she made her debut with Firestorm Volume 2, Issue 21. She was actually a friend and co-worker of the previous Killer Frost, but after that Frost had passed away, somebody had to step up, right? So she repeated the same experiment, and voila, we have a new and improved Killer Frost. She immediately went after Firestorm because, you know, they were to blame for the death of the previous Frost, which is always great when we have a villain do a nice grudgy start like that. She ended up selling her soul to Neron for more power, so it's safe to say you want to keep your distance with this one. She joined the Suicide Squad briefly in the comics, and she was also a key member in the animated Suicide Squad film Hell to Pay. Kicking off the list at number 10, Slipknot. Yeah, so he was in David Ayer's Suicide Squad, but he didn't last long. I think he was in the movie for 46 seconds, maybe longer. felt like 46. He got robbed. He's actually really cool in the comics. He's a mercenary who can climb anything. He uses his trusty ropes and grappling hooks, and being a formidable assassin, he should have probably survived longer in that movie. He joined the team in Fury of Firestorm versus the Suicide Squad. In the comics, he and Captain Boomerang believed that the bombs Waller had strapped to their arms were fake, just like in the movie. So Slipknot tried to make a run for it, and in doing so, he got his arm blown to smithereens. And at that point, Captain Boomerang was like, okay, maybe they're real. Maybe they're real. Okay, I believe you. And before we continue on with this list of powerful Suicide Squad members, guys, if you want to go ahead and hit that thumbs up, because it really does help us out quite a bit here at our studio. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Now let's get right back to the list. Number 9, Katana. Tatsu Yamashiro was a member of David Ayer's Suicide Squad, and she made her comic book debut in The Brave and the Bold issue 200. She's a skilled martial artist who wields the Soul Taker sword, which sounds as cool as it is. Her husband's soul is actually one of the many that are trapped inside said sword. She trained as a samurai under Master Tadishi, and then she suited up and headed to America to join the fight for justice. She joined the Suicide Squad in Volume 5, issue 27. Other than being a powerful member of the squad, she's also been a key member of the Outsiders. Number 8, Blockbuster. This absolute unit entered Detective Comics in 1965, issue 345. Mark Desmond was kind of a Bruce Banner situation. Kind of. He was a brilliant scientist who felt like he was too scrawny. Yeah, he wanted to become stronger. He wanted to be bigger. He wanted to get ripped, and Sarah's discovery wasn't cutting it. So what did he do? He created a serum that just made him strong, because that's what you do in comics. He got super strength, but unfortunately the serum side effects resulted in him being a mindless brute, and he no longer was capable of talking as well. He was part of the Suicide Squad in the comics, but again, not for long. One of those characters that was cut too short. In Legends issue 3, Task Force X is sent to Mount Rushmore to take out Brimstone, but Brimstone actually used his fire powers against Blockbuster, and Muscles versus Fire, usually Fire is gonna win that battle. Muscles versus Fire, Fire is probably gonna win 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, definitely. So that was Blockbuster's last appearance, short and sweet. Number 7, El Diablo. This was a key member in the climax of David Ayer's Suicide Squad. Cheto Santana. He joined the team in 2011 with the New 52's version of the Suicide Squad. And his powers, well, yeah, you probably guessed it. Similar to that fire guy I was just talking about. He has the powers of pyrokinesis, and when he uses up all of his power, like we saw on the big screen, he can become much larger. He grows wings too. He straight up becomes a fire demon. How scary is that? Now, he's got quite the temper. Back before his Suicide Squad days were even upon him, he burned down an entire building just to settle a score with a gang. But then when he realized that innocent people were involved, obviously he turned himself in. So he's trying, you know? Number 6, Black Manta. David Hyde, most would recognize as a major Aquaman villain, aka Black Manta. The most recent incarnation of the villain was introduced in Aquaman Volume 7, Issue 7. He grew up on a houseboat, excelling in diving and treasure hunting, and his parents were divorced and he's stuck with his father, Jesse Hyde. Cause yeah, treasure hunting beats pretty much whatever's going on Mom's side. Sorry. They were looking for the Black Pearl, which wasn't a ship with Johnny Depp drunk aboard. Rather, it was a pearl that granted its users hydrokinetic abilities. And in Teen Titans Volume 6, Issue 10, David found that pearl. He later joined the squad in Volume 4 when he thought Aquaman had perished, because he figured, well, nothing better to do, might as well just join this team and do some villain stuff. Number 5, Mind Boggler. First appearing in Firestorm Volume 2, Issue 29, Leia Wasserman is a punk rocker who just happens to have been given powers by Breathtaker of the Assassination Bureau. Those powers being mind control, and she's actually really, really good at it. Her name is Mind Boggler, so she must be, right? She can make the walls seem like they're closing in, resulting in her victim to suffer a loss of equilibrium that they just instantly feel nauseous. Hey, it's Mind Boggler. Yeah. One sec. She was on the Suicide Squad, but Captain Boomerang let her get riddled with bullets. You know, because she humiliated him for harassing another member. So yeah, Captain Boomerang's kind of the worst. Number 4, Mr. 104. Not to be confused with Mr. 305, although they are very similar. We now go to Doom Patrol and Suicide Squad Special. He's originally a Doom Patrol villain, but they all teamed up to rescue Hawk in Nicaragua, so I had to include this guy because, well, he would be much different now if he came around in the comics or the movies. Mr. 104 can transform his body into any of the elements. See, back then there were only 104. Now this dude could have transformed into 118. Or whatever the number is. Unfortunately, his time as a Suicide Squad member was cut short while they were fighting the Rocket Red Brigade. Number 3, Punch and Julie. A 2-for-1 combo coming right at you. Okay, So this criminal duo made their first appearance in Secret Origins Volume 2, Issue 28. And they're not taken seriously by most, but they've been known to be just as unpredictable as the Joker and Harley Quinn. See, Julie grew up in Brooklyn with Punch, and they worked as puppeteers at Coney Island during the day, which sounds like a blast. But at nighttime, the couple drifts into the shadows, and they become thieves. They came across a container filled with alien weaponry, and they used it to create this underground base in Coney Island. And their criminal super career was born. They were recruited by the Suicide Squad in issue 24 of Ostrander's run in the 80s, but they left when a pregnancy came into the picture. Probably a good time to quit a Suicide Squad. I'd agree on that departure for sure. Number 2, Captain Cold. Leonard Snart made his debut in Showcase issue 8. Now, Leonard enjoyed the company of his grandfather, who ran an ice cream truck, but after he passed away, Leonard had to just spend his remaining days with his father, who was just a terrible parent all around. So this led to Leonard joining a group of thieves, but he was caught by the Flash. See, originally he was a Flash villain. So next he studied the energy emissions of a cyclotron and figured, maybe it could work against this Flash guy. So he designed a weapon that could freeze people using the moisture in the air, Frozone style. And then he later on joined the Squad in issue 17. I would be pretty pumped to see Captain Cold in live action. I feel like we need an evil Frozone on the big screen, that's for sure. And finally, coming in at number 1, Poison Ivy. Pamela Isley, there we go. She joined the team in issue 33. She actually stuck around for quite a while. She made her comic book debut way back earlier in Batman issue 181. She studied botany in Seattle, and after she was poisoned from special herbs, she got these fantastic abilities, and now she's invulnerable to all these poisons. And after spending some time in prison after run-ins with the Bat, she was recruited to the Suicide Squad. Like I said, she stuck around for quite a while. She helped the team out from issues 33 to 66. Now, around the same time, she was also spreading deadly toxins around Gotham City in hopes that the only remaining citizens would be those naturally immune. So yeah, she's kind of a big bad deal.
Number 10, Grant Morrison. Is Grant Morrison really a villain though? Well, this version of the writer is. We aren't really talking about legendary comic book writer Grant Morrison here, just to clarify. They obviously are busy writing comics and not necessarily appearing in them because, you know, we're people, we can't really actually go into comics. This character, however, does share their name and profession and was created by Grant Morrison himself and Chaz Truog. Grant Morrison is portrayed as a character in the comics who is the enemy of Animal Man and goes by the alias of Writer. The Writer had reality-altering powers connected to, of course, their writing. Obviously, the character was created as a kind of fun joke by actual real-world writer Grant Morrison. Morrison and Truog's Grant Morrison ended up on the Suicide Squad during War of the Gods. The character perished in issue 58 of Volume 1 of the Suicide Squad. Sad. No more Grant Morrison. All we have is Grant Morrison left. Number 9, Reverse Flash. Okay. So it's not Eobard Thawne, Reverse Flash, it's Daniel West. But I still think Daniel West is really cool, and more of a tragic character actually than Thawne, so I'm including him, even though he is a newer character. Or at least he was anyways. During his time on the Suicide Squad, he ended up dying. He ended up injuring his knee on a mission after pushing himself too hard in terms of speed. And so, when he had to race against the clock to dispose of a time bomb that threatened an entire village, he ended up sacrificing himself to save the day. Well, initially, he actually succeeded. He had dropped the time bomb into the ocean to dispose of it, mission accomplished, everything was safe, but while running back across the water, he tripped and ended up getting sucked into the vortex that the explosive created. Sad stuff. Reverse Flash joined the new Suicide Squad in issue 5, and he died later on in the new Suicide Squad Annual, issue number 1. I mean, it's the Suicide Squad. Someone's gotta die. And friends, before we move on to this next point, if you're enjoying this list and you want to learn even more about the Suicide Squad, please give this video a thumbs up. I personally love going into it with you, so yeah, if you want more of it, let us know. Also, yeah, maybe hit subscribe. Hit subscribe while you're down there. Did you hit subscribe yet? You should do it. 9 out of 10 people highly recommend hitting subscribe. I mean, this is a made-up statistic, so 10 out of 10 people recommend hitting subscribe. Number 8, Killer Frost. Back when Caitlin Snow was still a villain, she was part of the Suicide Squad. She was a scientist who was turned into a heat vampire after an experiment gone wrong where she was betrayed by her own colleagues. That's how she got her powers. As Killer Frost, Caitlin Snow appeared as a member of the Suicide Squad during the Justice League vs. Suicide Squad limited series. As a result of that story, she ended up actually turning to the side of good after. Batman negotiated her release from Belle Reve after she had helped to save the world, though she did, of course, remain on parole. Because, you know, let's not go crazy here. As a hero, Killer Frost would drop the killer part of her moniker, going instead by just Frost. Number 7. Cyborg Superman. Cyborg Superman is another villain who you might not know served on the team. Cyborg Superman is Hank Henshaw, who was one of the replacements for Superman following the events of the Death of Superman story. Of course, he quickly turned to the side of evil, as some cyborgs are known to do. I'm not looking at you, Cyborg, so don't worry, you're still cool. Cyborg Superman would appear as a member of the Suicide Squad team during the events of Convergence in the Suicide Squad Convergence series in issues 1 and 2. Spoiler alert, it didn't go well for that team. As soon as Cyborg Superman was unleashed as well, he pretty much instantly turned on everyone, ending up in a brief one-on-one fight with Star Sapphire. Number 6. Dr. Light. Dr. Light might not be a big-time foe to some, but he's definitely a memorable villain considering that he's been involved in some pretty major plots in DC. He's not really anyone's main squeeze of a nemesis, but instead is just a general villain, and a pretty terrible person overall. He ended up joining the Suicide Squad during the New Earth continuity, appearing in John Ostrander's original Suicide Squad volume, attempting to get recruited in issue 19, but being denied, and then later joining the team in issue 24. Light wanted to join initially to get time removed from his sentence, but later joined mainly because he was doubting himself and was made to feel less than by Jacob Finley, who operated as a heroic version of Dr. Light for a brief time. Arthur was Jacob's friend and colleague, but was also responsible for his death. Dr. Light would later die, go to hell, be resurrected briefly only to die again in his grave, and then be brought back one more time. Once more back to life, but more permanently now. He attempted to rejoin the squad, but was denied re-entry by Amanda Waller. Sad. A lot of denials for Dr. Light, but he was on it for a little bit of time. Number 5. Ravager. Ravager is the moniker for Rose Wilson, crazed daughter of Slade Wilson, who wanted initially to be just like her father, and to prove it, she even cut out her eye to match him. Yikes. Rose often operates as her father, Deathstroke's apprentice, wanting to learn how to be a skilled, deadly mercenary assassin just like him. Rose's feelings about her father have more recently become more complicated in the comics since then, and she currently has more of a love-hate relationship with her dad right now. She appears as a member of the version of the Suicide Squad from the DC Bombshells universe, working alongside Batgirl, Enchantress, Killer Croc, Francine Charles, and, of course, Amanda Waller. Number 4. Captain Cold. Captain Cold is a well-known Flash villain and is often known as the leader of the supervillain team, the Rogues. But did you also know that he was on the Suicide Squad as well? Yep. Captain Cold made his first appearance on the team in issue 16 of the original Suicide Squad volume, where he very casually just kind of appeared there as a member of the team. He seemed pretty friendly with Captain Boomerang in this issue, I guess because they're both criminals and they're both captains. Captains gotta stick together, I suppose, but apparently not too close or for too long, as Captain Cold only appeared for a few issues with the team after his initial appearance. By issue 20, he was pretty much gone. Number 3. Bane. When we think major Batman villains, Bane is definitely one of them. He was made famous after being one of the antagonists known for his ability to break Batman, literally, during the events of Nightfall. More recently during Tom King's run, Bane would return to torment Batman once more, this time focusing on not just defeating him physically, but mentally as well. Bane was well on his way to becoming a national hero permanently when Amanda Waller intervened behind the scenes and ended up rigging the nation of Santa Prisca's Democratic election. Frustrated by this, but without knowing who to blame, Bane used his influence to invoke martial law. This created civil unrest and basically all-out war in the country, and ultimately ruined Bane's newly acquired hero status. As a result of his fall from grace, he ended up joining the Suicide Squad and ended up back on Venom. Number 2. Star Sapphire. During the events of Convergence, Star Sapphire ended up joining the Suicide Squad. Many Green Lantern fans know Star Sapphire as Carol Ferris, Hal Jordan's sometimes main squeeze and oftentimes villain. She is part of the Violet Lanterns Corps. In Convergence Suicide Squad issue number 1, Carol offered to join the team. Amanda Waller was initially hesitant to accept, as Carol usually loses control while in her Star Sapphire form, but this time around Carol exhibited her ability to remain in control, and so she joined up. Number 1. The Penguin. Another famous Batman villain who joined the team, but only appeared for a few issues during the first volume. Penguin joined the Suicide Squad in issue number 5 of Ostrander's run. He was actually arrested for something that doesn't really seem criminal, but more has to do with, I think, the prejudice of the justice system. Initially, Penguin emerged from prison after being caught by Batman and proclaimed he actually would no longer be a villain. He was on the straight and narrow because he was in love and his partner did not want him to be involved with crime. He opened an umbrella factory but hired ex-cons, which was deemed by the law as him consorting with known felons. Huh? Although this could be considered just him trying to help reformed criminals restart their lives. Jeez. Anyways, after going to jail, Amanda Waller recruits him to the Suicide Squad. In exchange for completing the mission, he'll become a free man again. Of course, I'm pretty sure for some reason that doesn't actually work out that way, even though he does help with the mission. During the mission, Penguin is almost killed and also just nearly makes it out alive. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he goes back to jail after that. So, what? Man, this justice system is all messed up. No wonder Penguin's becoming a criminal. Can't get ahead.
Number 10. Deadshot. Also known as Floyd Lawton, Deadshot was kind of done dirty by the Suicide Squad movie. An expert marksman can only really do so much against a demonic witch. A recurring and long-standing member of the Suicide Squad, Deadshot is known for his firearm skills and unmatched accuracy that his name would suggest. He is one of the most feared assassins in the DC universe and has hand-to-hand fighting skills on par with guys like Deathstroke. For a guy without any superpowers, he's a pretty serious threat. He is known for never missing a shot and once worked with Batman to take down the Cobra cult. He is in peak human condition, a weapons expert, and has sweet demolition skills as well, having once killed 28 civilians with a bomb. He is a skilled, self-taught engineer as well. He even built his signature wrist-mounted guns all on his own. Number 9. Deathstroke. With strengths and reflexes that are 10 times that of the average soldier, Deathstroke is definitely a powerful dude. He can use 90% of his brain, making him one of the best tactical strategists in the world. His time with the Suicide Squad was pretty short, as a group of Russians wind up offering him a better deal and he just kinda leaves. He does have a set of skills that has allowed him to beat multiple members of the Justice League in the past. The only contract he's ever failed to complete is one against the Teen Titans. He is commonly considered to be the world's deadliest assassin, and he benefits from a wide range of powers. His abilities include accelerated healing, toxic immunity, and superhuman senses. He also has superhuman strength, speed, and stamina, and can exert himself for hours without tiring, even while wearing heavy body armor. He is also a genius with an eidetic memory and tactical analysis on par with Batman. He once took on 300 opponents at once. Number 8. Poison Ivy. Another long-standing member of the Suicide Squad is Poison Ivy, who seduces men with plant-based abilities and kills them with a single kiss. She is a champion of the green, the energy force behind plant-based life. She has many abilities, including being able to control humans using plant pheromones and mutate plant life, making monstrous creations or giant vines she can use to her advantage. Swamp Thing once said that her powers have a mythical component and her power likely rivals his own, calling her the May Queen, the mother of spring and summer. She is crazy powerful, having once brought an entire tree crashing down on Clayface, and another time brought down a skyscraper with some giant vines. She is a master of seduction and taunts her trapped opponents with their human desires. She can regenerate her limbs and even benefits from decelerated aging. If you're thinking she sounds about perfect right now, I should warn you, she's also mentally unstable. Number 7. El Diablo. The name El Diablo has belonged to other characters in DC's past, but the Suicide Squad Diablo is Chato Santana, a powerful criminal with power over fire. When he uses his full power, he transforms into a demonic form with wings. His powers are based in magic, having received them from Lazarus Lane, the first El Diablo. When transformed, his demonic avatar was powerful enough to take on Incubus, a demon from another dimension. El Diablo has other abilities as well, including being able to travel to hell, and Suicide Squad director Amanda Waller claims El Diablo is one of the most powerful metahumans in the world. Number 6. Harley Quinn. Another powerful member of the Suicide Squad, and a face I'm sure you were expecting to see, Harley Quinn. She has come a long way from being sidekick to the Joker. She's been a partner in crime, a proper villain herself, and at times a vigilante. She has a pull-no-punches approach to combat and questionable sanity, but she was once a criminal psychologist, so she kinda knows what she's on about. Specific kind of crazy. She is immune to most toxins and poisons, and is advanced at hand-to-hand combat, with great skill regarding weapons, skills, and leadership. Watch out for that sanity though. After Joker was skinned alive and killed, she broke into an evidence locker to steal his face, only to kidnap Deadshot and make him wear it while she asks questions. She might not be the most physically powerful, but she will definitely mess up your day. Number 5. Killer Frost. She's now just known as Frost, but she used to be a formidable villain and a member of the Suicide Squad. She was a bright young scientist working for Star Labs in the Arctic Circle, working on a self-sustaining thermodynamic ultraconductor engine, basically a perpetual motion machine. But the only perpetual motion happening here is DC perpetuating the same stereotypes, am I right? This icy-hearted femme fatale becomes a vampiric being who craves heat and absorbs it from living beings to sustain herself. For real. Her colleagues are revealed to be secretly working for an organization called Hive, who wants to keep the machine secret to protect their existing investments. They attempt to silence her by placing her inside the working ultraconductor engine, where she panics and rips out some wires connected to the coolant system. Her biological makeup is infused with ice and she becomes Frost. Part of her power is her unique physiology. Rather than being made of ice, her body is actually encased in permafrost, and she generates organic ice-like cells which make up her chemistry. She can spear her opponents with ice shards like a mage from Skyrim and create ice storms powerful enough to kill people. She has a genius level intellect as well, but she will die if she spends too much time chilling. She really starts to feel the heat if she's not absorbing everybody's. I don't know, I tried a lot of different funny puns here about the stealing the heat thing, but none of them really hit. Number 4, Black Orchid. Although many people have taken the mantle of Black Orchid, the original and most connected to the Suicide Squad is Susan Linden Thorne. She developed a love for plant life from her high school sweetheart, a botanist named Philip Sylvain. Her father was abusive, and she ran away as a child, becoming a blackjack dealer and getting into trouble, later returning to Philip, who used his plant-based studies to turn her into a human-plant hybrid named Black Orchid. She brought many criminals to justice, but could never get to Lex Luthor. And when she does, he has her killed. Miraculously, her consciousness flees back to the lab, and this causes a second Orchid body to awaken. Her main ability is her total mastery of disguises, but she is also very powerful outside this. Nearly invulnerable, in fact. She can fly, project force fields, and has superhuman strength, speed, and agility. She does, however, have a weakness against Weed Killer due to her unique physiology. Still more powerful than Poison Ivy. Number 3, Black Adam. The nemesis of Shazam, Black Adam was once a member of the Suicide Squad. He requests the squad's help to help fight against an evil sorceress in Suicide Squad Volume 2 and 3, temporarily joining them. Black Adam was once a candidate to replace the wizard Shazam, but he was unfortunately corrupted by the power. Unlike his nemesis Billy Batson, who has the power of the 7 Greek gods, Adam has the power of 7 Egyptian gods. He is literally an unstoppable powerhouse that not even Superman could defeat by himself. He can use lightning as a weapon and benefits from accelerated healing and a whole host of other powers bestowed upon him by the Egyptian gods. He is set to appear in an upcoming DC film, portrayed by none other than The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Number 2, Parasite. That's right, even Parasite has been a member of the Suicide Squad. In New Suicide Squad number 9. No doubt one of their most powerful members ever, Parasite's ability to absorb powers from the people he touches makes him a threat to even Superman. Not only this, but by absorbing excess energy, Parasite's body mutates and he becomes even stronger. This during a period of time where he was keeping the powers that he absorbed. He also absorbs memories, meaning that he can learn the secret identity of heroes like Superman. It's Parasite's potential for power, depending on who he absorbs from, that lands him so high on our list. Number 1, Enchantress. Enchantress is a magic-powered supervillain contained in a human host named June Moon. Enchantress was originally June's second personality, but it's later established that the Enchantress is a separate entity during the In the Dark storyline. Enchantress has seriously earned her spot as the Suicide Squad's most powerful member. She is fused with an extra-dimensional demonic entity, which led her to developing the Enchantress persona that she switches to by saying her alter ego's name. The Justice League Dark was actually assembled to help take her on, and as of the New 52, Enchantress has become even more powerful. even surpassing Zatanna, who is powerful enough to do basically anything in terms of magic ability. Enchantress once conjured hundreds of clones of herself. She has a crazy collection of powers, including force fields, flight, necromancy, possession, and control of the elements and weather. She can even stop time.
Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Trial by Blood and Fire. The very first Suicide Squad issue made its first debut back in 1987, and on the cover in big inviting letters says, "These 8 people will put their lives on the line for our country. One of them won't be coming home. Ooh-wee, wonder who it is." So the 2-issue story was just the beginning of a very long, successful run, starting with a fresh lineup of characters that are super well known, like Deadshot and Captain Boomerang. Now, the first issue has an explosive introduction with the stakes raised so high and so fast, with Air Force One being attacked and so many people injured in the process in just 1 minute and 7 seconds, apparently. So who better to call to take down the nasty group than our new group of heroes? So issue 2, titled Trial by Fire, picks up with Captain Boomerang being Australian, the most Australian, saying things like "cripes" and other stuff. And we see our team in full force, and it's an action-packed introduction. So if you're looking for a place to start, I mean, the beginning is often a safe bet. And in this case, it's one of the most fun issues to read. There's a link, page 18 for that link. Sick. And before we go on to number 9, if you guys could go ahead down there and click us a little thumbs up, that would be great, because it helps us out a lot here at our secret studio. Top secret, don't tell anyone. Okay, you guys rock. Now back to some badass Suicide Squad missions. Number 9, The Phoenix Gambit. Written by Kim Yale and John Ostrander, who has pretty much written all of these except for maybe a couple. This 4-parter begins with the Suicide Squad Volume 1, Issue 40. So we start with Batman finding a body on the ground near the harbor in Gotham City, and the victim was Nicholas Varga, who owned the shipping yard. Now the body was found as if it was dropped from a great height, but there's no buildings nearby, right? How mysterious. So Batman thinks he was thrown from a ship, which is one hell of a toss. That plus a squished bullet, this is the work of a metahuman for sure, definitely for sure. So this detective work soon becomes a mission he works alongside a returned Suicide Squad to prevent an international conflict to take place. It's a lot of fun to see Batman go in and convince these big players to work together. I think that's the best part of this whole story. And of course he does it in his usual Batman ways. Yeah, it's super political and the 4-parter keeps you hooked. It's a slow burn, it takes time to get cooking, but the action is really fun and the pages become more and more stressful. It'll truly leave your head spinning. Number 8, The Janus Directive. Suicide Squad issues 27 to 30, known as the Janus Directive story, is a big one. So we find this epic crossover with all the major government operations with superheroes, and I'm talking about Checkmate, Project Adam, the Central Bureau of Intelligence, the Peacemaker Project, the Force of July, and of course our very own Suicide Squad, and they're all going at each other because Amanda Waller decided she wanted to be a rogue operation. But all the while we have Cobra trying to take down the government and replace Amanda Waller with a doppelganger. And the doppelganger of course doesn't last long, and Amanda decides to take its place and went to take down Cobra from the inside. It's crazy, a lot of shit goes down. So every organization thinks that they're after each other thanks to this intel referred to as, you guessed it, the Janus Directive. Number 7. Deadshot Bulletproof. This time we have a story coming to us not by Ostrander, but by Christos and Gage. So we get an up close and personal look at a fan favorite member, Deadshot, who most of us know now as Will Smith, and soon we'll know him as Idris Elba. Gotta love DC and their DC-ness. So we find Floyd Lawton, and he has a bit more depth to him this time around in the 2005 5-parter, specifically in the form of a daughter. That's right, he finds out that she's currently residing in a violent neighborhood, so he goes in to clean up a bit. And if that means taking out some gang members, then so be it. Family is family. Number 6, Up Against the Wall. Suicide Squad issue 10, titled Up Against the Wall, is a big fan favorite. So many fans have pointed out that this issue was the biggest change of pace and stepped it up quite a bit for the Suicide Squad title. So we have this epic story that puts the Dark Knight himself against Amanda Waller. It's the issue where Batman discovers the existence of the Suicide Squad. It's a big deal. And let's just say he was pretty shocked about it. He actually threatens Amanda that he's gonna blow the whistle on the whole operation, but Amanda doesn't exactly react too kindly to that. I mean, you know, as fun as exposing a covert government sounds, she explains back to Batman that if he does this, she will use everything in her power to find out who he is. See, because he used his Matches Malone cover, he wasn't wearing gloves when he first investigated Belgrave Penitentiary. No gloves means fingerprints. Not a bad threat, Waller, not a bad threat. Number 5, in control / out of control. So after the events of The Killing Joke, Barbara Gordon was of course never the same. See, the Joker had put a bullet in her, causing her to remain in a wheelchair. But Ostringer and Yale went a smart route and made her become Oracle, the expert hacker. And it was fun for readers to find out that Oracle was actually Barbara. It was a nice reintroduction, you know? But most importantly, the Suicide Squad at this point didn't know that yet. They didn't know this big reveal. It was just the readers. So it feels like we're in on something secret, you know? So in Suicide Squad issues 48 and 49, it starts with Barbara reliving the horrible events that night. And it ends with her and Amanda becoming closer. Of course, after Barbara fought off the Thinker, that is. Number 4, Final Round. Suicide Squad issue 22, titled The Final Round, is a single issue that actually ties together a bunch of subplots. Let me explain. So it's gotta be in here. It's a very, very juicy one. So after Senator Cray hears about the Suicide Squad, he blackmails Amanda to support his re-election, or else he would start spilling secrets, right? A lot of blackmailing, God. So now she's trying to think of another plan to blackmail him back, you know, get some dirt. But Rick Flag is already on his way to go over and kill Senator Cray and Derek Tolliver. Derek's actually the one who told Cray about it in the first place, so he's involved. So Amanda sent out the Suicide Squad to stop Rick Flag, and well, if you know anything about Rick Flag, that's not going to be an easy task. Some team members are torn at the idea of having to kill Flag, and then when Deadshot steps in to intervene, he ends up ultimately changing his mind and going against Amanda's orders and killing Cray, bam, right there, right then. And Deadshot actually barely survived this. He got shot numerous times after. It was a whole thing. Number 3, Bad Blood. Written by Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo, we get a promising front cover saying, by the end of this issue, half of the team will be dead. But why? What is this, Infinity War? Someone gonna snap their fingers? Well, the squad gets assigned a new mission to take down some super terrorists called the Revolutionaries. But here's the twist that made this issue stand out. The surviving Revolutionary members are joining the Suicide Squad. So what a weird thing. It's like, hey, fight him, but whoever wins is gonna join you. So you're like, okay. So Harley Quinn and Deadshot basically have to figure out who to trust when they were assigned to also kill them at the same time. It's a fun concept and a pretty exciting introduction to some new faces. Number 2, Apocalypse Now. Okay, this one's a huge 4-part storyline spanning from issue 33 to 36. Okay, we pick up with Amanda after she has lost control over the Suicide Squad, right? This is a big time. So a new commander has taken her place and she has to try and figure out a plan to get back into the driver's seat, get back into control. Meanwhile, there's a task force member who returns to Apocalypse, putting the team at jeopardy. And where else to fight a god then? Well, off-world. That's right, in this amazing issue we get to see the squad square up against Darkseid on Apocalypse, and it's gloriously gory. It's terrifying. Also, bonus points for Amanda Waller versus Granny Goodness, which is just icing on the cake for this whole thing. Apocalypse Now is a fun read. I mean, all these humans stuck dealing with Darkseid, it's a genuinely horrific experience for some of them. This is very out of their ballpark. And we also see a great moment from Dr. Light. Poison Ivy's in the mix and she kicks some ass. Led by Lashina of the Female Furies, the team's adventure to Apocalypse is one you definitely won't forget. And then soon after we have, drumroll, that's right, number 1, The Coils of the Loa. Taking place right after Apocalypse Now, this 3-parter epic begins of course with issue 37. And it's so great because the main focus is on Amanda Waller now and just how far she's willing to go. So The Coils of the Loa is the storyline, of course, that focuses on the Suicide Squad and how they just returned from off-world. Meanwhile, the Loa family was developing drugs that would straight up turn people into zombies, and they publicly outed the Suicide Squad. A lot of drama happening in these 3 issues, oh my god. So the squad had to be shut down. I mean, the world knows about them now, it's done, cat's out of the bag. But Amanda Waller decides she's not done yet and sends out another squad to take out the Loa family once and for all. But it sure doesn't help when 3 squad members who were promised early release take a run for it after that last job that I just mentioned. So Suicide Squad from 33 to 39, if you need to kill some time, these are your must reads. Bam.
Number 10, Calendar Man. A lot of people forget about Calendar Man, as his gimmick seemed, well, a little weak, committing crimes on specific holidays based on the holiday's theme, a motif that probably seemed less silly back in 1958, when the character debuted in Detective Comics number 259. However, over the years the character has morphed into a credible, crazed, and dangerous threat. The character got a massive overhaul in Batman The Long Halloween, where he managed to go toe-to-toe with the Dark Knight himself on a mental level, keeping him on his toes. Since Rebirth, he now has meta abilities, aging and de-aging alongside the seasons, still obsessed with the perfect themed crimes. Calendar Man showcases that with enough planning and foresight, one can be a threat, even from Arkham itself, as some of his plans have been carried out while he was still locked away. Number 9, Lockup. This character comes to us from the DCAU, that being the DC Animated Universe, the interconnected universe that began in 1992 with Batman the Animated Series and ended in 2006 with the conclusion of Justice League Unlimited. This character comes from Batman TAS, and is yet another character to make the leap from that series into the comics, a la Harley Quinn. Lockup, aka Lyle Bolton, was a guard at Arkham who felt that things were far too lax, and sets about revolutionizing it. However, his methods were so harsh they abused the inmates, and led to him being fired, which caused him to go down a path of supervillainy. As you do. That ultimately led to him being locked up in Arkham himself. The danger here is obvious. He knows the ins and outs of the system. People are already breaking out left and right and center, and now someone who worked in security there is locked up inside. Poor planning, Gotham. Poor planning. The only good thing was for a time he was content to keep people from escaping from the inside. Number 8. Jean Loring. Jean Loring comes to us from a rather contentious story arc in DC that now, thanks to the New 52 and Rebirth, is long past, but will never be forgotten. We're talking about Identity Crisis. This was a tale in which heroes' significant others are being murdered, and the heroes are trying to find out who is doing it, who has access, and why. Well, it turns out the culprit was Jean Loring, the Atom's ex-wife, who wanted to get back together with him, so conceived of a plan to murder the loved ones of heroes to get him to come back to her and protect her, even going so far as to stage an attack on herself. Once this was discovered, the Atom took her to Arkham Asylum, just locking her up with some of the most dangerous criminals while she has full knowledge of a lot of their secret identities. Atom, what are you doing? Security there is terrible. Next time an actual credited villain will be murdering family members. Number 7. Cornelius Stirk. This character first appeared back in 1988 in Detective Comics number 592. Cornelius Stirk is a serial who has the ability to make his victims see him as someone else. He uses this ability to get close to his victims and eat their hearts, after inducing fear in them, as he believes that he needs the fear hormones to live. The funny thing, well, not funny haha, more like funny huh, he was actually released from Arkham in his first appearance, declared sane, but then he stopped taking his meds, and it was not only back to murder, but back to Arkham. He's not used too much, but when he is, it's terrifying. He could be anyone. He's like the salt creature from Star Trek. Number 6. Charlatan. This is the tale of what happens when you have someone who gets too close to an OG villain. Don't do it. Just stop. Paul Sloan was an actor who was hired to play Two-Face in a kind of Lifetime movie. However, during the filming, the prop master switched out the fake acid for real acid, and initially gave him the exact same disfigurement, and later it was far worse. This set him off the deep end and also led to him being highly confused as to whether or not he was Two-Face or not. In the modern version, he was hired by rogues to impersonate Two-Face, and tortured by the Scarecrow till he lost the ability to feel fear at all. Driven mad, he set out to take down the villains that hired him. Well, Batman can't have that. That's his job. So off to Arkham with him. Maybe he can get them in there. Number 5. Ragdoll. So there have been multiple Ragdolls. For our purposes, we need the first, Peter Merkel, but in the New 52 continuity. Ragdoll is a villain with the ability to just completely compress himself, so he can collapse and move under things, like a ragdoll. Hence the name. He uses his abilities for evil, because of course. While really he could probably end up in Blackgate, Batman comics have a tendency to put metas into Arkham, kind of the idea that their abilities make them crazier. Maybe they do. Number 4. Humpty Dumpty. This character first appeared in 2003 in the comic Arkham Asylum Living Hell. Humpty has a compulsive need to fix things, The only problem, not all the things he fixes are broken, and in the process he breaks them, causing things like subway accidents. He focuses on mechanical items that offend him in some way. This obsession lands him in Arkham, where he's actually one of the better inmates. He even fixes things for the other prisoners there, such as repairing the ventriloquist dummy. The only problem is he doesn't know what he's doing is wrong, so if he gets out, he will do it again, and no one knows what he will try to fix next. Number 3. The Doll Maker. The Doll Maker is the son of the Toy Man, who developed a complex due to a lack of affection from his villainous father, who loved other children far more than him. This set him on a quest to one-up his father, as he sought to truly hurt children with his toys. After being taken out by Supergirl, he is thrown in Arkham, because everyone is just dumping their villains into Arkham. No asylums in Metropolis, I guess. I mean, they all talk in there. This is how villain leagues get started. Number 2. The Psycho Pirate. For our purposes, we're talking about the second Psycho Pirate, Roger Hayden. The Psycho Pirate possesses a magic mask with the power to project emotions, but that's far from what makes him dangerous. Even though his powers could be augmented to great effect, so that he could even control people. No, he rose to truly dangerous prominence during Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was a major DC story event, where they decided their multiverse and characters were out of control. So they constructed a climactic event to merge the universes and kill off unwanted characters. This occurred in 1985 to 1986. After this event, the Psycho Pirate was the only person for a time who remembered what happened, which drove him mad, and led to him being imprisoned in Arkham. But he also contained the ability to bring some of those characters and universes forth, if he were ever able to become sane. He even managed to bring some of these characters back during Grant Morrison's Animal Man run. Since then, and after even more reboots, his powers are back to what they were when they started. But for a time, he could have undone all reality. But I mean, DC does that themselves anyway. Number 1. Who could it be? Well, it's Jason Todd, the second Robin, unless you're in the DCAU-verse. Jason Todd was infamously killed by the Joker, beaten by a crowbar and left in a building wired to explode. His fate left up to reader vote, which rumor has it was ultimately decided by an angry fan with his phone on redial. Later, the character was resurrected when Superboy Prime punched the wall. Yes, he punched a wall and it ricocheted across realities, changing all kinds of things. However, when Jason first returned, he was far from fine, and for a time, some felt he was far from sane. Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin run saw the character being held in Arkham for observation, after all the havoc he had wrought, killing villains, attempting to take down the rest of the Bat family during the Battle for the Cowl arc. Really? Tim should never walk again after all that? But if we dealt with injuries in comics realistically, no one would be able to do anything. Ever. Dick was keeping him in there for his own safety, allegedly. But really, how safe is that? He's really lucky that Jason was just bitter and not actually insane. Otherwise, again, secrets revealed, alliances formed, people dead, which did happen while he was there. More so after he was successfully transferred to Blackgate. When he was, the inmate rate spiked. A bitter ex-Bat family member with an axe to grind, a menace to villains and heroes alike. Sounds like a dangerous inmate to me.
In at number 10, the Riddler. If you shared a cell with Edward Nygma the Riddler, you'd likely have a major headache by the end of your stay at Arkham. Or you'd be driven mad. Either or, really. The Riddler first appeared in Detective Comics issue 140 in 1948 and has been a mainstay in Batman's rogue gallery for years. He's a criminal mastermind who is rarely outsmarted by anyone but the world's greatest detective himself, hence why he has respect for Batman, although he'll continuously try to throw him off with a well thought out riddle linked to his crimes. So what would that mean for you if you ended up in Arkham and found yourself having to share a cell with this fellow? Well, he would mind with you so bad, hide all of your possessions, and make you solve riddles in order to get them back. Or he'd make you solve puzzles in order to have access to your shared toilet in your cell. The possibilities are endless really, but they'd all involve riddles and puzzles and schemes that would make your brain hurt. And nobody likes a smart roommate. Now imagine being passive aggressive with you. He would just give you really complicated riddles as like an answer to any question you asked. It would drive you insane. And at number 9, Mr. Freeze. While Victor Fries is one of the more empathetic and pragmatic villains on this list, the reason Mr. Freeze finds himself here isn't because of his personality or his criminal MO. It's because it would really suck if you had to share a cell with him, because it would be really cold. And that's unpleasant. Because of the laboratory mishap this cryogenic expert endured while trying to develop a cure for his terminally ill wife Nora, his body temperature sits at sub-zero levels, requiring him to wear a special suit in order to stay alive. Thing is, that suit is also equipped with a whole lot of weapons and tech that would be dangerous to have on Victor while he's imprisoned in Arkham. So his cell in Arkham has typically been depicted as a freezer room of sorts, or a specially made room that allows for the temperature that he requires to survive. Now imagine having to share that cell with him.
For starters, it probably wouldn't be allowed because you would freeze to death, but even if you did get stuck in there temporarily with Victor, you'd have to wear a snowsuit so thick that you'd avoid going to the washroom just because of how difficult the process of taking off your pants would be. And if you can't poop, how is that living? And at number 8, the Mortician. Unlike our previous number, the Mortician makes this list because he is utterly terrifying. Porter Vito was a funerary agent who ran a funeral home. Imagine he was just a funerary agent who ran a beach resort? That'd be weird. His everyday involved him being well acquainted with corpses. So what did this fellow do? He came up with several different experiments and techniques to try to resuscitate his dead parents. Yikes. Then he started doing it to other dead people. Fun. Overall, he's a much smaller time Gotham villain who primarily uses zombie swarms in combat, and is therefore creepy as hell. I don't know about you guys, but I would rather avoid the Mortician altogether. What would you even talk about? Would he try to kill you and then resurrect you? And that would make the conversation even more strained. No thanks. In at number 7, Clayface. Clayface, aka Basil Karlo, has a very interesting skill set. He can change his clay body into anything or anyone. Now, imagine if you had to share a cell with him. And imagine if he didn't like you. That could be pure psychological torture if he was really able to get under your skin. But fear not, these days for the most part in DC Rebirth the character has turned a new leaf, or rather new clump of clay? He's trying out being a hero, having grown tired of the criminal lifestyle and taking Batman up on an offer to change his life. But after the fall of the Batman story arc, he was infected with the Monster Men serum, transforming him into a monster full of rage that then went on a rampage and destroyed part of Gotham. He would be presumed dead, but was revealed to have survived and had gone into hiding. Now powerless though. Needless to say, I don't think he'll be kicking around Arkham anytime in the recent future. In at number 6, Victor Zsasz. Victor Zsasz is one of Gotham's most notable serial killers. Every time Victor kills, he adds another tally with a knife onto his skin. And take a look at him, he's got a whole lot of tallies. He claims his mind is its most clearest when he kills and when he is counting his kills. He wears those tallies on his flesh like badges of honor. Victor won't really see you as human, but rather an opportunity to add yet another tally onto his scarred flesh. He won't hesitate to kill you unless you can prove your worth, meaning unless you're like a kingpin of some sort or have a reputation, you're likely as good as dead if you get stuck in a cell with this lunatic. Moving on to number 5, Death Rattle. Death Rattle may be a much more small-time villain compared to others on our list, but he is arguably one of the most terrifying by far. Aerosmith's Death Rattle reign first appeared in Arkham Asylum Living Hell issue 1. He is a cult leader and a ruthless serial killer, a self-proclaimed psychic, and a founder of his very own religion, which was deemed wildly unpredictable and very amoral. He believed that he could communicate with the dead, and voices in his head told him to kill 56 members of his own ministry. So that's how he ended up in Arkham. And while there, he murdered a bunch of different kinds of Arkham inmates unexpectedly, all while claiming the asylum's ghosts were communicating with him. Now, consider this. Those ghosts who spoke to him, they would tell him later on in Arkham Asylum Living Hell issue 6 to throw himself into fire and sacrifice himself, which he would do willingly. The ghost's true motives? They just wanted him to kill himself and rot in hell for what he had done to his victims. Aw, ghosts. So even though he is dead, hypothetically speaking, being his roommate would be all sorts of creepy. You'd have to worry about being recruited to a cult, witnessing murder all the time, maybe even getting offed yourself in the name of Death Rattle's religion. Doesn't sound overly pleasant now, does it? Moving on to number 4, the Dollmaker. The Dollmaker is one messed up dude. While we haven't seen him in Arkham before, we'd imagine he would certainly end up there. First introduced in the New 52 and Detective Comics issue 1 of 2011, Dollmaker, aka Barton Mathis, was forced to go on hunting trips with his father when he was a child. Except they were hunting a very, very illegal kind of game. Human beings. He witnessed his father killing people and then cannibalizing them, and in addition to that, he witnessed his father being fatally shot by a young James Gordon. After spending a year in foster care, he would reemerge as the Dollmaker wearing a mask made out of his own father's skin. He's also the fellow who cut off Joker's face and then reattached it, because clearly he's an expert. So all in all, if you'd prefer to not have your skin cut off and then reattached to your body in a different spot, or worse, being roommates with the Dollmaker definitely wouldn't be up your alley. Imagine you just woke up and your face skin is on your gut and you're just like, whoa, I've got 2 faces now. And at number 3, Professor Pig. Just look at him. If that isn't enough for you, let me explain Professor Pig, aka Laszlo Valentine, to you further. First appearing in Batman issue 666, prior to the New 52 continuity revamp, he was a former agent of Spiral who went mad thanks to mind-eroding drugs. After the crime syndicate showed up on Earth 3, Pig ended up using Gotham's hospital as his base after Batman disappeared. And he uses his Dollatron army to go around the city, sedating people, operating on them for experimentation without their consent. Most operations were absurd and severely disfigured his patients. He once switched a tennis player's hand with one of his feet. So if you'd like a good night's rest without having to worry about waking up and having your foot where your hand should be, Lazo probably shouldn't be on the top of your potential roommate list. Up next, number 2, Killer Croc. For starters, with Killer Croc, you'd be sharing a prison cell that exists within a sewer in Arkham Asylum. The asylum repurposed it in order to hold Waylon Jones. Now he's lived in sewers his whole life, so it makes sense that his cell would also align with that in order to keep him calm. So, hygiene? Not that great. Plus he's got regressive atavism, which results in one's ancestral traits being expressed again, which is why he has scales, sharpened talons and teeth, and enhanced physical abilities that make him look like a giant crocodile, hence gaining the name Killer Croc, but also because he kills. That being said, Jones could be reasoned with potentially. He's cultured and even bilingual, having an admiration for French literature. He also knows what it's like to be downtrodden and hurt, and his sympathy could be appealed to. Either that or you'll get eaten, so two very different extremes, but regardless, you'll be in a sewer and imagine never being able to get the smell of poop out of your clothes or whatever. That's no bueno. And finally, in at number 1, the Joker. You gonna die. Definitely gonna die. The Joker is one Arkham inmate and Gotham criminal that cannot be reasoned with, and even though his cell is likely to be up to sanitation standards, you know he's gonna screw you up big time. He's gonna toy with you slowly until he decides to kill you, or he's just gonna find a creative way to murder you within your first day sharing a room. You definitely couldn't afford to sleep in that cell. That's for damn sure. Because you might not wake up, or worse, you will wake up but you'll be super screwed up, or he might make you laugh to death. Would that be a horrible way to go though? Either way, the Joker has no qualms with torturing others just for shits and giggles. And if you're his roommate, well, you've likely got a terrible fate headed your way.